Hello and good evening, anyone and everyone. It is Nerdy Neo here again for another Thursday night open mic. And tonight, I have an awesome guest, as always, from Goes Nowhere Does Nothing. One half of the Goes Nowhere Does Nothing crew. We got Adam, also known as Cyclops. Is it Muller or Muller?
Muller.
Muller. I had it wrong on both accounts.
That's all right.
Muller.
Nobody says it right the first time.
I was thinking it was Mueller, but then like Bueller, but then I was like, wait, there would probably be another E in there, and then you're like Muller. I'm like, oh, well, I was wrong on both accounts. So,
oh yeah,
well, excellent. Thank you for joining me tonight for an open mic. So I've got. I was talking to Charlie last week. The other half of Goes Nowhere Does Nothing, and I think you're both planning on being on Party Chat on Saturday. Is that right?
Planning on it, yes.
Okay, cool. I'm looking forward to having you both on, assuming you can both make it. So I know you guys do your show like right before mine. I would love to come on yours, but the timing just doesn't work out for me, at least at that time currently. So hopefully we'll be able to make that work at some point. But I'm looking forward to having you guys on Saturday. So
we can always adjust the time or date too at some point.
Cool. I hope we can make that work, because I've watched all of your episodes so far, and they have been great discussions, and I've really enjoyed them. So, hoping that we can make that work at some point. So, I guess I was going to ask you kind of about the origins of Goes Nowhere Does Nothing. That's more of a Charlie question, isn't it?
For Charlie, yeah. But the origins of him and I working together actually date all the way back to 2011.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, give me a little bit of background on that.
So, my wife actually grew up in Rockford, Illinois, where Charlie is originally from.
Okay.
And we actually decided to go to Rasmussen College, and I happened to walk into English class one day, and there Charlie was sitting right behind me. Now, I didn't know him at this point, and we just kind of had that awkward little conversation you have with the people around you the first day, and our English teacher, the way that him and I knew that we were going to be friends right from the get-go, our English teacher said something about like a few weeks from there, they would have us actually stand in front of the classroom and we'd give a speech and everything. And she's like, now remember, you need to project your voice, you need to enunciate. And then I just made a Futurama reference that was so inane, I didn't think anybody would get it. I was just sitting there and I went, so be louder and sadder. And then Charlie just busted out Amy's line from there going, Bender was the greatest. And I was like, oh my God, this guy actually figured out what I was doing.
Did we just become best friends?
Exactly. It was one of those, like, what? Could not believe he understood everything. And I was like, okay. And no matter what, like for the next couple of weeks, the smallest little reference that I could make to any pop culture thing, God of War, especially Futurama, Simpsons, he was right there. He knew exactly what I was doing. So awesome. We started hanging out, and then my wife and I moved away. We kind of drifted apart for a little bit, but then we were still keeping in touch on Facebook. And eventually he started Goes Nowhere Does Nothing, and I was doing Gamers Got a Game. And we decided, why don't we merge these things? Why don't we do the podcast? And when I was living in Wisconsin, I actually had Gamers Got a Game as a radio show for one of the community radio stations in Sun Prairie, which broadcasted to Madison. Well, when we moved, I kind of messaged him and I said, I'd like to still do that, but I didn't like with the radio that we were very hindered by the FCC, because I would want to think about that, but yeah. I'd want to show video game clips, or I'd want to play, of course it was radio, so it's like I would want to play little audio things, but we always had to be sure there was no swearing. We had to be sure the violence was kept to a minimal. We had to be sure that they didn't make such a sexual reference. We're talking like Grand Theft Auto, and where they can just fly off the handle. And I was like, I can't put these things in here that I want. And I mentioned to Charlie, I said, if we do it as a podcast and we team this up, we don't necessarily have to be hindered by that. You can pretty much say what you want on the internet. So we put it together, and I want to say it was a few months ago, and we've been doing it ever since. We've got a pretty good following so far. I'd like to expand as much as we can, but now we've been invited onto other podcasts such as this one. I've been on a few with Ryan Reed, as we were talking about before, who has a Pixel Classroom, and also he does one, I think, once every couple months called Games, Comics, and Coffee. So yeah, really, really excited, and I'm enjoying being here.
Yeah, about when would you say that gamer or not gamers got a game, because that's been around for a while, it sounds like, but more of the merging of the two and goes nowhere does nothing?
That really happened more recently. I didn't know much about that he even had Goes Nowhere Does Nothing right away. Until him and I started talking more and more, and then he started putting more of the stuff in, and then that's when I just said, why don't we merge the two? And that was probably within the last 3 months.
Okay. Yeah, because I only got my start
with timelines. So I'm sorry.
No worries. Because I got my start about late June, early July. And then I just had someone on recently who also got started like almost the exact same time as me. So a bunch of us kind of all have sprung up all in about the same little time frame. So it's kind of fun to see us all growing together.
Definitely. And we call it Gamers Got a Game, but we also talk a lot about like comic books, and we talk about movies and even things in the music industry. Just last week we had the guy who does the music for what was that, for Side Scrollers, if you've heard of them.
Oh yeah, I watch them all the time.
Yep, the guy that does the music for them came on to our show, and
are you talking about Paul Hadouken?
Yep.
Yeah, he's a good buddy of mine. I had him on. He's usually into my chat. A couple weeks ago, I just did a spontaneous test stream to try and figure out some technical stuff behind the curtain, and he hopped in and he's like, "Give me all these tips and stuff." He's a good guy.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I met him just a little before we did the show, and he seems like a really good guy. I can't wait to have him back on our show again, and hopefully interact with him here with your show.
Yeah, he was the guest on my last party chat about a week and a half ago. So yeah, Paul Hadouken's good. He's good people.
Oh yeah.
So,
yeah, and I learned something recently with music and games. Did you know that actually in the 90s, especially early 90s, had really famous people did a lot of the music for games, but they didn't want to have their name on it because it'd be career suicide, because games were considered a kid's art form at that time?
I would be curious to find out who that is, but that does not surprise me at all.
Arabian Prince. I actually met him. If you know him, he's one of the founding members of NWA. I actually saw him at a panel, I want to say about 2 years ago. And it was cool. He actually came up to me, shook my hand, and said, good to meet you. I didn't have to go up to him. He came up to me. And awesome. Yeah, and the panel was actually about music in the industry. And he said back in the 80s and 90s, when the NWA, even after he left NWA, but before he left, if they weren't doing anything, if they were on hiatus or whatever, he was actually working, and all of them in some way were working on gaming music, but they had to keep their name on it and go under assumed names because they would be career suicide at that time. Now you see Call of Duty and you're like, score done by Trent Reznor, whose name is like front and center, and Dr. Dre was in Grand Theft Auto Online, and how many games has Snoop Dogg been in? It's like,
yeah.
Now it's like, great, these are big draws. Not that time.
Yeah, Snoop Dogg and I think Cardi B are operators now in Call of Duty.
Yeah, which is weird. Which is just weird.
But yeah, I mean, video games, I think, are like the largest, safe for work entertainment industry. I'm sure the XXX industry is probably the biggest, but of regular industries, I think video games is by far and away the biggest industry nowadays.
Most likely, I would think so. Yeah, and I was kind of joking with Charlie that ever since we first started the show, we've because we talk about celebrities and things like that. If they usually have something to do with gaming or if they had some kind of impact on our childhoods, but almost every week since then, we've had some big celebrity death that we've had to address.
Yeah.
Like the voice of Two-Face and Arlene Sorkin, we're just like, why did this happen when we started?
Oh, yeah, that's right. What was the voice of Two-Face? What was his name?
Oh god, I cannot think of his name. Let me check this out here.
And then just earlier this year with Kevin Conroy, right? That was this year?
Last year.
That was last year?
Yep.
Wow, it does not seem that long ago. Wow, that was a year ago, a couple days ago, November 10th, 2022.
It doesn't seem like it should have been that long ago.
It does not. It seems like it was a couple months ago.
That was Richard Mole.
Yes, that's right.
Yep.
I remember hearing about that just a couple weeks ago. Yep. Such is life, unfortunately. So, on to lighter news.
Sorry, didn't mean to do that.
No worries. So, give me a little bit of background on your gaming history. Where did you start? What got you into gaming?
Well, I've pretty much been gaming ever since I was born. My grandparents had an Atari, and back in I was born in 1984. Back in 1987, my mom actually bought my sister and I. She bought it as a family gift for Christmas, which I used it more honestly. But she bought us the Nintendo Entertainment System, so we started playing that. And then as games started progressing, we started kind of moving into like Genesis and Super Nintendo. I just kind of progressed from there, was always really into them. My mom could never get me to pay attention. I've got ADHD really bad. She could never get me to pay attention in school, but I could pay attention to those games like nobody's business. And then I would say once we moved, I would say in the PlayStation 2 era is more when I became like a super hardcore gamer. At the time, I was 16 and my mom actually moved me from my hometown where I had grown up and met everybody. She moved me actually 4 hours north. So I had to start school over, had to finish my last 2 school years in a different district than I had ever grown up with. And kind of the way of dealing with that and, dealing with the lack of structure and everything was I would stay at home and I would play video games. They helped me through some pretty tough times, and that got me through quite a lot. So that's where I became more of the hardcore gamer and been playing almost every day ever since.
So, I guess I could ask you through the stages, but let's just go with currently. What is your platform of choice? What do you spend most of your time gaming on?
I mostly spend time. Well, recently it's been more on the PlayStation 5, but that's because Spider-Man 2 just came out.
Okay.
I have a Xbox Series X and I have a PlayStation 5, and I play those both equally. I'm not opposed to PC gaming. I've got a PC that can handle them. I just haven't played a lot because the console keeps me pretty busy.
Yep, I know what you mean. I'm kind of similarly. I'm an Xbox guy. I was a Nintendo kid and then switched over to Xbox in high school, and I've just kind of stuck with it ever since. But there are plenty of PlayStation games that I want to play as well. So I definitely don't have anything against the other consoles. I'm glad that most of the PlayStation games I do want to play have come to PC because I do also, as of just recently, have a PC that can handle them now. So I'm looking forward to playing some of those. So if I do get anything else, it's probably going to be the Switch because I really, really, really need to play Metroid Dread because I am a Metroidvania super enthusiast. That is my genre of choice. Mm-hmm. And it's the only Metroid game I haven't played. So because I don't have a Switch, I haven't played it. So my plan is I'm hoping that sometime soon we'll get some announcement or something of the Switch 2 or Switch Pro or whatever the next Switch is going to be. And assuming it's backwards compatible, then I'll get that and I'll finally be able to play Metroid Dread and then a few other Nintendo games that I want to get. But yeah, I can wait because I have plenty of games to keep me occupied for years, even if no new games came out.
Oh yeah.
So
And that's why Charlie and I were kind of joking around saying that if SAG-AFTRA actually went on strike against the video game companies, it might be good because then I could catch up on my backlog.
yeah, exactly. I could have no new games for years and I'd still be fine. I've got a huge backlog.
Yeah, I do have a Switch. I haven't played a whole lot of it, but I do have a Switch. And actually, my neighbor over here keeps yelling at me because I never played The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom, and he
Okay.
is pretty much screaming at me from his apartment, going like, "You need to play this," and I'm like, I know."
Are you big on the Zelda franchise?
I play them kind of sporadically. I've never been massive on them, but I do like them.
Okay. Yeah, because the how they've kind of rebooted with Breath of the Wild in the style of game that it is. A few people I've had on are not big fans of the new style of Zelda games.
More
So
RPG style.
how it's like this giant open world sort of thing rather than more of a contained um and you're kind of directed to go, you have to go and do this temple first and then this temple, whereas now it's just this giant open world to just go do whatever you want in any order. I know that I've got a few friends who are not huge on the new style. So
Oh yeah.
when I get a Switch, I'll probably get Tears of the Kingdom because I do love Zelda. I played everything. I haven't played almost the entire franchise with after. I never played the original Zelda or Zelda 2, but pretty much everything after that I played up to Breath of the Wild. I haven't played Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom, obviously, because I don't have a Switch. But I'll probably get Tears of the Kingdom at some point and see how I like that. But yeah, I'm a big fan of the Zelda franchise, so
Oh yeah.
I'm hoping I like it. It kind of similarly, if you kind of want to equate it, it's kind of like how Assassin's Creed rebooted their franchise and they became these giant open world RPGs. So
Yeah.
some people like the old style, some people like the new style, some like both, some like neither. So at some point I will figure out where I fall on that spectrum.
Actually, when I was streaming on Twitch, I had a guy come onto my stream claiming, I don't know if he was real or not, but he was claiming that he worked for Ubisoft and they were just wanting to check streamers and see what we thought of the new RPG style. And I think that was when I was playing Odyssey. And I told him, I
Okay.
said, dude, you guys really need to tone it down with with these worlds. I said, and I told him, I said, what really brought people into Assassin's Creed in the first place was it was action stealth, it was semi-open world, but it had a pretty linear story. You could go do a few things here and there, but for the most part, it kept you on a pretty narrow path.
Right.
Great. And that's what we loved. And I said, you just threw this whole thing at us and said, here's a giant world, go play. And it's like, well, now the leveling system sucks because I absolutely have to be at this level before I take on this boss. And then leveling is takes 75 hours to level up. And then eventually, they did tone it down a little bit with Valhalla. And then I was really happy with Mirage. I haven't played it yet when they finally said that they were bringing it back to its roots. But now they say Red is going to be more like Valhalla. But now they're saying Hex is going to be possibly more like the original. So I'm like, I think they're juggling it. So every other game is going to be open world, more like the original open world. At least that's what it seems like.
Okay, because I haven't heard anything about Red or Hex other than Red is going to be feudal Japan, which I'm very much looking forward to because it's basically like the number one request of fans is a feudal Japan Assassin's Creed game for a decade.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping it's good, especially since it's I think what finally kind of pushed them in that direction is the success of Ghost of Tsushima, which
probably
unfortunately isn't on PC. So if I really want to play it, so I may have to get a PlayStation at some point just to play that game. But I'm hoping it comes to PC so I can play it without having to get a PlayStation. But hopefully Red will be at least somewhat of a good substitute. But yeah, as for the Assassin's Creed franchise, I have played everything up to Syndicate. I'm currently working on Syndicate. It's been an ongoing battle with it. I've been started it in July, and I still haven't. I've beaten the story, but I haven't. I'm a completionist, so I haven't completed it yet because I keep getting distracted with other games.
Oh yeah.
But I'm planning on finally finishing it up before the end of the month because it counts towards a competition I take place in on Xbox. So I haven't played the new open world ones. I have them with the exception of Mirage, but I am definitely looking forward to playing Origins and Odyssey because I've heard great things about. Well, I've heard a lot of good things about Origins. I've heard good stuff about Odyssey.
Those are great games. It's just they're too big for me.
Yeah. And that's kind of why I'm most hesitant about Valhalla. I'm looking forward to playing it too, just not as much as the other two, just because it's like a 200+ hour completion. It's nuts. It's like I've got all these other games to play. So
right. Well, you're on my favorite one. Syndicate was my favorite of all of them so far. Syndicate and Rogue.
Rogue is probably up there for my favorite. I loved Rogue. I haven't, not that I've had anything against Syndicate, but the one thing that I mentioned on one of my streams is that I do love the addition of the grappling hook. That is a game changer for all the building climbing you do. So I definitely have liked that, but overall, not in my upper. I'd say kind of put it around the middle for me for Assassin's Creed games.
Oh, no problem. I've just always liked the UK, England at that time. I've always been a big fan of that. Are you going to play the DLC too that introduces Jack the Ripper?
Yeah, I've started the DLC. That's where I am currently. I got through like the first mission in the DLC, so I haven't gotten far yet. But yes, I have started it.
I remember when that game was announced, I was like, you can't put in Darwin and Dickens and not put in Jack the Ripper. It's literally in the same time frame. It's like, just expand it. And then like the minute they announced the DLC, I was like, okay, I'm a little disappointed it's not in the main game, but thank you. I got something here.
I'll allow it.
Yeah. I like that. What was that, Mills Lane that did that?
I don't know where that actually came from, so I don't know. I just know it's a meme. I'll allow it. But hello, Angry Canadian. He's a good buddy of mine. He's been on a few open mic before, and he's good people as well. So he always likes listening to the video game discussions, just like me. So before we kind of get on to what you brought up beforehand, before we started, give me a couple of your top favorite franchises, just to kind of hear where you're coming from and what kind of stuff you like.
So I like the Arkham franchise. I've got reservations about Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, which is supposed to be in the Arkham universe. I'm not totally against it, but I'm what do you call that? I'm cautiously
optimistic.
Yes.
Okay. I'm cautiously not optimistic. It is not looking good. I hope I'm wrong, but
I saw the developer diary for that, and I was like, I see where they're going. They're going to piss people off.
Yeah. It's like, from what little I've seen so far, it doesn't seem like it fits the characters at all. It looks more like a Crackdown game than a Batman game, or a game that should be taking place in the Batman universe.
Well, at the same time, I was like, I can totally understand, the whole aspect of playing a game from the villain's perspective. I can get that. I mean, the Suicide Squad is, it's a lot of people know it, and people know it for a reason because it got to be pretty popular. I mean, there's 2 movies out of it. Now, whether you like those movies or not is a different thing, but one of them was good. One was meh,
because I saw the first one. I haven't seen the second one.
The first one I didn't hate, but I thought it could have been done better. But also at the same time, I know the guy that directed it said that it was not his version of Suicide Squad that ended up on the screen. It was studio interference that sat there and messed that up. But then the second one, they pretty much let James Gunn do whatever he wanted. And while it wasn't, I wouldn't say it was a perfect movie, it was a lot better.
I've heard from most people that most people consider the second one better. I didn't think the first one was that bad, but it also wasn't very great. I did before the first one came out though, the animated movie Assault on Arkham, I think is
Mhm.
what it was called, was basically I don't know if that's where it originated from, but that was the first like Suicide Squad thing that I'd ever seen, and I
Yeah.
thought that was pretty good. So when I heard about the movie, I'm like, oh, they must be taking it from this animated movie.
Mm,
But I don't really have much knowledge in the background of like the comic book stuff, so maybe
right.
Suicide Squad's been around a lot longer than that. That would just happen to be the first thing with the Suicide Squad I ever saw.
Right. No, I mean, I was a fan of Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn. She was perfect, and even Will Smith didn't do a bad job as Deadshot. Some people thought that his performance wasn't that great. I was like, I didn't think he was bad in it. I just thought his dialogue and maybe what he had to work with wasn't the greatest. And it wasn't that it was bad. It's just I was expecting more. And a lot of people ripped on Jared Leto for his portrayal of the Joker, and I was like, I don't think he necessarily did a bad job. I think the what he was given to work with and the studio interference, I think that hindered his not necessarily his performance, but that hindered that character. And that's my opinion on that. I don't think he did a bad job. He really wasn't in it very long. He had maybe like 5-10 minutes of screen time, not even.
Yeah, I think a lot of the stuff that he did record, I think, got cut out of the final version.
Mm-hmm. So it's like, and so a lot of people sit there and rip on him. I'm like, I didn't hate it. I didn't think it was the best, but then at the same time, I don't know what's on that cutting room floor.
Yeah.
What could have been his saving grace.
I think there's kind of like the how the Snyder cut got its redemption. I think there's a similar thing.
The air
People
cut.
The Ayer cut, that's right. I know a lot of fans are trying to, or I don't know anymore. I think it lost all steam. But during the
Oh
time
yeah.
of the Snyder cut, the peak of the Snyder cut, people were also like, "Get the Ayer cut out there," and then I don't think
Hmm.
that ever happened.
Not yet, anyway.
So,
But for other franchises that I really like, I know you were saying you're more of an Xbox person. I love the Gears of War franchise. I am an absolute fanboy for the Gears of War franchise. I'm really hoping that they announce a new game pretty soon. It's been what, like 6-7 years since Gears 5.
I don't know. I've only played Gears 1, 2, and 3.
Okay. Um,
So Gears 5 came out in 2019. So 4 years.
4 years. Okay. Again, I'm bad with timelines.
And being an achievement hunter and a completionist is basically the main reason why I haven't played past 3. I didn't even mean to play 3. I accidentally put it on my tag, on
Mhm.
my gamer tag. I didn't mean to because the developers of the Gears games are pure evil when it comes to achievements. They're like, you must play our game and nothing but our game forever if you ever want to get the completion. I was like,
Mhm.
yeah, no thanks.
Yeah. I do got to say though, for the story wise, and spoiler alert for anybody that hasn't played Gears 2 or 3, those had some of the most emotionally impactful scenes that I had seen in games up to those points. The with the second one, when you finally find Dom's wife and you
Yeah,
see through his eyes, it's like she's there, she's beautiful, but then it's like, you're not seeing what everyone else is seeing, and she's like all
she's
wrinkly. It's like,
basically a zombie.
yeah, there's no saving her and he's got to put her out. I'm like, oh, you just spent the whole game, looking for her, and this is how they end her arc. Oh god, that hurts. And then to
Yeah,
hear
that
that
was
gunshot, they never show it, but to hear that gunshot in the back, I was like, that feels like that hit me.
yep, totally. I'm right there with you.
Yep. And then what scene I'm talking about in the third one, right?
Yep, of course.
Yeah. So I don't know if you want to spoil that one for anybody, but
Uh,
wow.
I mean, yeah, I get we don't have to, but I mean, it's been let's see here when Gears 3 came out. 2011, so it's been 12 years.
Okay. Most people have played it. Yeah, where Dom
Oh, thanks.
sacrifices himself, just
Yeah,
for the good of
and that
for
was
the good of
I th-
humanity.
I think that's finally because when Gears was announced, do you remember the Gears announcement trailer and
The first one?
of the first one way back in the day
I
and
think so.
the music that was in that trailer? Do you remember what
Mhm.
that was?
Wasn't it Mad World?
Yes.
Yep.
I don't believe Mad World was actually in the franchise until that moment at Dom sacrificing himself.
Hmm.
So, um,
And it hit.
yeah,
And,
yeah,
I mean,
definitely.
they I think Cliffy B, was he working on the third one? I know he did the
I think
first two.
so.
Yeah, so I mean, he knew when to hit.
Yeah, I think it was. It wasn't until Judgment that it went to a new studio. I think
Okay, Coalition.
Coalition. Yeah. Yeah. So
But yeah, other franchises. I absolutely love the God of War franchise.
I love hack
I
and slashes, and I've never had a PlayStation, but I would have loved the Gear or the God of War franchise. I just never had the chance to play it.
Did you ever get a chance to play the clone of that game? It was called Dante's Inferno.
I knew that's what you were gonna say.
Yeah.
I have access to it, but no, I've never played it. I know I'd probably like it too. My favorite hack and slash of all time, and is in my top 3 favorite games of all time, is Ninja Gaiden Black.
Okay. So yeah, hack and slash are a lot of fun. Those are where I get my aggression out. Like if I have a bad day at work, it's like, guess what? You have to die with this axe, you know. And that's actually what I really liked about Assassin's Creed Valhalla too. Was you just got to take a battle axe to somebody's face. Like why? Because reasons. That's why.
Those reasons.
Yeah, I would say Assassin's Creed is one of my favorite franchises. I've got my favorite entries into this franchise, and then I've got ones that are like anybody does with any long-going franchise. The Uncharted series is excellent. Absolutely love that. And if we stick with PlayStation, The Last of Us, those 2 games I love.
You like both of them?
I did.
Okay.
I did. I actually with the controversy with the third one, or with the second one, I'm sorry, that didn't really make a whole lot of sense to me, because I was like, you realize this is from a story standpoint. What happens actually does make sense, I was very thrown off by the fact that they had you play as Abby for a while, which was kind of play on the other side. But then the more I played as her, the more I was like, I see what they're doing. So they're almost humanizing the bad guys, so to speak, so that when you do go up against each other, it actually has more of an emotional impact. And I think a lot of people just didn't understand that. That's what they were going for. They were trying to, hey, you're human. This happened to you. You've watched Ellie, go through hell. Now, guess what? The person that she's after, they've also gone through hell. That's why they're doing what they're doing. They're not really that different. So I was not a big fan of the ending, though.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, okay, you go through all that, and then you both just walk away. You've killed like armies of people here to just say, okay, truce.
Yeah. I know that was another thing that a lot of people were not happy about. It's like, what was the point?
I know. But that was the thing, is like, I think Neil Druckmann said the point of it was that there is no point to violence. The violence is not going to solve your problems. And I'm like, okay, I see you're trying to ram some sort of moral message down our throats,
but I've already
it's a
killed how many people?
Exactly. Do that at the beginning of the game, not after I've already murdered an army of people.
Exactly.
But yeah, I like those games. I was always a big fan of the Grand Theft Auto series. I was always let's see, which other ones was I thinking of there? Back from the PS2 days, I really love the True Crime series, which I would really wish, now that Xbox owns Activision, who owns the IP to that, I'm hoping they'll make a new game. I know Phil Spencer has actually been on Twitter saying, hey, what game franchises would you like to see resurrected? And I plastered it with True Crime, get us back.
I don't know. I've heard the name a bunch. I literally know nothing about True Crime. Is it like a GTA clone?
It's a GTA clone, but you're on the side of the cops at that time. But you're not a cop who necessarily follows the rules.
Gotcha. Okay. Interesting.
Which is what I understand GTA is going to do with GTA 6, but we'll find that out later next month.
Yeah. Well, assuming that, I don't know, maybe we might be thinking about different things, but I know I've heard a bunch of talk just the last day or two about something about the announcement of the next GTA game, but they didn't say specifically GTA 6. They said the next GTA game. So there's left the door open that it might not be GTA 6, might be something else. Is that
right?
What you're referring to?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. Everyone's assuming it's GTA 6, but it could be something else. Unlikely, but possible.
Well, you never know. There's actually like 14 games in the GTA series, and now we're on GTA 6, which, if you were to go number-wise, would be like GTA 15 or something like that. So,
Maybe
But yeah,
another
GTA is always
remaster of an older game. Who knows?
Rockstar. If you've ever watched my stuff with, I think what Charlie and I have talked about on our shows, and if you've ever seen my social media stuff on it, I have a love-hate relationship with them. it's I will never say that they don't make great games, because they do. I mean, they innovate, and when they do put it out, they knock it out of the park. And I've always told Charlie, I said, they used to be all about innovation. They used to have balls, so to speak, and they used to really push that envelope for the sake of the art. I mean, Bully took guts, we'll just say. Bully took guts, Manhunt took guts, Grand Theft Auto took guts to make. And now they're just like, hey, we have this online thing. Let's just do the minimal amount of work, give some sort of update, and make $1 billion every day and go home.
Yeah, let's just milk it for all it's worth.
Yep. But then when they put out something like Red Dead 2, all of a sudden it's like, oh, everything is forgiven. It's like, no, you should still put out something else. And Charlie was saying, well, what about Bethesda? Bethesda puts out Skyrim every couple of years. And I'm like, yeah, but at least they give us other games with Skyrim, they give us like 5 games and then a Skyrim remaster, then 5 games and then a Skyrim remaster. I was like, if Rockstar did that, wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing.
Okay. And another buddy of mine, Vanquish AZ, is hopping in the chat saying, hey guys, and he would kill for a Sleeping Dogs 2, the spiritual successor to True Crime. Okay, I've heard a lot about Sleeping Dogs, but I don't know much about it other than it is also in the vein of a GTA game.
Yep. Actually, Sleeping Dogs started as a true crime game.
Oh, okay.
Yep, it actually started, and Activision was working on it. Then they decided not to do it, but they shopped it around, and I forget who has it, but the publisher that picked it up got it, but Activision wouldn't sell the name True Crime, so they had to call it something else. So they called it Sleeping Dogs.
Oh, okay.
So, and then they adjusted a few things here and there, but made it their own. So, and I would definitely kill for Sleeping Dogs 2 as well. I love that game.
That one's more of like GTA, where you're like in a Chinese gang, right?
Yeah. It's a lot like that, but I really like what they do by making guns very scarce in there, and they actually talk about how this isn't the States. Guns aren't everywhere. You're going to have to do your combat, and it becomes more of a GTA with hand-to-hand combat instead of just straight up gunplay. Now there are gunplay missions, but it's not consistent.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, cool.
Yep, and actually, some of the people from some of the most highly rated Japanese kung fu movies make appearances in that game.
Oh, it was like cameos?
Yeah, voice appearances.
Oh, cool. Nice.
And we were talking about God of War earlier. That was one of my favorite franchises. I got to say, congratulations to Alana Pierce, who is actually, she put on Twitter today, she's celebrating her 4th anniversary at Sony Santa Monica, meaning she's been a game writer for one of the biggest Sony developers for 4 years.
Oh, I didn't know that she was on a writing team. I just thought she was like a Twitch streamer.
She's on the writing team for Sony Santa Monica.
Cool.
She worked on Ragnarok, actually.
Okay.
God of War.
Yeah. I don't think that one's, because I know the first God of War reboot is on PC. Is Ragnarok on?
Probably not yet.
I was gonna say, I don't think it is yet, but it probably will be at some point. So I definitely look forward to playing those games eventually. So cool. All right. Well, before we got started, I asked you if there was anything in particular that you wanted to talk about. You're like, hey, let's talk about the Game Awards. So we'll head on into that. Do you want to start with the game of the Game of the Year awards that I don't think those have happened yet, or the ones the Golden Joystick ones that were just announced a couple days ago?
We can start with the Golden Joysticks. Those are the ones that just happened here recently, and then they can kind of talk about the Game Awards after that, if that's cool with you.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, normally.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, normally I kind of just just talk about stuff. So actually having a topic to talk about is kind of a new thing for me. So um, if you wanted to kind of to lead that, by all means.
Sure. Yeah, I didn't even know the Golden Joystick Awards happened until like yesterday.
Yeah, I don't follow awards really at all either, so I had no idea.
Well, the Golden Joystick Awards, they kind of are a precursor to the Game Awards, kind of like how like the Golden Globes and all those are their precursor to the Oscars, and you can usually tell what's going to happen at the Oscars award wise by watching
Okay.
them.
Yeah, I don't ever
And
follow any of those either.
yeah, I kind of stopped after a while once they just got super boring. I do follow the Game Awards just because I really like some of the announcements that they have there, and then every so often they get some sketches on there that are really funny. Just my own thing there. But yeah, I guess Baldur's Gate was the big winner for Golden Joysticks.
Is that for the Ultimate Game of the Year? Yep, Ultimate Game of the Year, Baldur's Gate 3. Wow, there's a lot of them on this list.
Oh yeah. See, that's also why I don't do the Golden Joysticks, because they're just so long.
And are Golden Joysticks voted on by like a committee, or is it community, or do you know how it's awarded?
I believe that's more of a committee.
Okay.
I believe.
But yeah, Baldur's Gate 3, I don't really have. I know Mark Cyborg, my co-host on Party Chat, has been a big proponent for that game. He loved it, although I don't know if that would particularly be his game of the year, because he's played a lot of games that he really liked. But he could not say enough good things about it. I'm not really interested in it, given that I'm not a fan of turn-based combat, so it has to be really special to catch my interest on a turn-based combat game.
Right.
But I know it's from what I've heard about it, it's definitely a very well put together game. And I definitely think that is. I don't think that's a snub to any of the other ones on this list. I definitely think it probably deserves it.
It probably does. I've got some people that want me to play it, but again, I'm like you. I'm not a big fan of turn-based combat. That just gets boring to me.
Yeah.
Like, no offense to anybody who likes it, but it just gets boring to me.
Yeah. Because my good friends, James Melee K, which I know you had on Goes Nowhere Does Nothing not too long ago. Good friends with them, and I'm like James and I are on the same wavelength there. We like real time combat, not so much fans of turn based, and K is like all about the turn based RPGs and JRPGs in general. I just don't have any interest in.
Right.
I wouldn't really call Baldur's Gate 3 a JRPG, but it definitely is a turn based RPG. So I can see myself getting into it, but it just doesn't really have much appeal to me.
The only turn-based combat that's pretty modern that I got into was South Park: The Stick of Truth, and then the Fractured Butthole.
That when they were both on Party Chat, I think they were on episode. Oh yeah, episode 5, which was probably about 2 months ago. We were talking about RPGs, and I was talking about how, despite not being a fan of turn-based RPGs, I did really enjoy the South Park RPGs.
It was just an episode of South Park that you were interacting with. So.
Yeah, basically, those are pretty great.
So, and that's why I did, because it was like it just went from laugh to laugh to laugh. Didn't matter that it was an RPG, but then what really made it fun during the RPG was then they would sit there and insult each other in their South Park way. While they were waiting for you. It was like, oh, wait, which attack do I want to do? And they're like, do we have to wait here forever?
Oh, yeah, if you just go idle in the middle of a battle.
Yeah. Those are always fun, but that's, again, I watch a streamer called Juicy Juicebox. He plays a lot of those, and I really watch him just for him and the community. I cannot stand a lot of the games that he plays.
Yeah, sometimes you can find those people that you just really connect with, and it doesn't really matter what they're playing. You just like hanging out with them, because I don't really watch streamers. I'd rather either be streaming and talking about a game or be playing a game. But Melee James streams a lot of stuff, and I watch almost everything that he streams just because I like him so much as a person. He's so entertaining and engaging. Most of my usuals are probably over there on his channel right now because he's streaming Ghostbusters.
Oh, okay. So No, yeah, he was really good when he came on our show. I actually had to apologize because he came on the first week, and I ended up having to call out at the last moment. So Charlie took over the show. I had to call out the last moment because last month we had 2 family emergencies, and then to top it off, my wife and I both got COVID. And that happened to hit us like on Friday. So I called Charlie even before I knew I had it. I was like, dude, I can barely move. So you're going to have to do the show. And he's like, oh, okay, that's no problem. I'll just let him know. And then it was like, ask him if they can come back next week because I still want to meet him, but I got to go to bed. And then I just spent that whole day going from the bed to the couch, to the bed to the couch, to the bed to the couch.
I'm glad you're doing better.
No, thank you. Yeah, and luckily they were able to come back the next week. And of course, it was after a day when they were drinking on stream, and I was like, well, you guys are just so hungover. And they're like, yeah, but we're going to talk.
I wonder if that was, I think that was right after the last Town Square, because Kay and I were really getting into it because she was ripping me a new one on that stream. But yeah, that was a fun stream.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing, go ahead. Okay. So looking at the nominees here for the game of the year, one thing that I've like I said, I don't really ever follow any awards shows, whether it's gaming or movies or whatever. But there have been a number of these this year, and I see them all on this list. And I was just thinking about it during just in the last day or two. What is your take on remakes / remasters being nominees for Game of the Year?
I was hoping you'd bring this up, actually. My wife, who's not really a big gamer, her and I were even talking about this. I think games that are remakes or remasters should get their own category because they do deserve to be recognized. They honestly do. Even if it's a complete remaster or a complete remake, if it has nothing to do with the original and you're just calling it the same thing, it does deserve its own category. But I don't think remakes and remasters should be up for Game of the Year. They should come up for Game of the year that they're originally put out, but not for the new ones. So what is that? I think Resident Evil 4 is up for Game of the Year.
Resident Evil 4 remaster, Metroid Prime remaster, Dead Space remaster, all great games. Yeah. But yeah, I definitely don't think that they should be in contention for Game of the Year. But I definitely agree with potentially having their own category because I don't think that remasters should be in contention when these games originally came out 10 plus years ago. Right. Metroid Prime was almost 20 years ago. Yeah.
I mean, and Resident Evil 4 was before that, wasn't it?
Yeah, Metroid. Okay, let's look because I think Metroid Prime was 2002. Let me see, Metroid Prime. Where's release date?
It's like I feel like it's just giving it a new coat of paint and then saying, guess what? You get this coveted award. It's like no,
nailed it. 2002, November 18th. So was that Saturday? Saturday it will turn 21.
Okay.
Metroid Prime will be old enough to drink.
Yeah. And it's up for Game of the Year 21 years later. It's like that it doesn't seem right to me. No, I think
4 release date was 2005, so a couple years after that.
Right.
And then I think Dead Space was like 2007. No, it's January 2023. No, I want the original, not the remaster.
Right.
2008. I was off by a year. So, yeah, so that would be the most recent one, 2008. That's 15 years old, and that's the newest of these remaster, or the newest game that has been remastered. So, yeah, I definitely don't think they should be up for Game of the Year.
I like that they didn't give, at least at the Golden Joysticks, they didn't give it to one of the remasters, and that's one of the few times that I'll ever root against, a game for any reason. It's just I don't feel it should be that way. So I like that Baldur's Gate got it. I would have personally preferred it to be something like Alan Wake 2 or Spider-Man 2, or even Assassin's Creed Mirage, which I haven't played yet, or even Hi-Fi Rush. I don't know if you played that one. That was spectacular.
I did not play it. I don't have any plans to play it, but whenever we get those spontaneous shadow drops, that's always an awesome thing. I know it kind of blew up, and
Mhm.
it did pretty well.
Yeah, that's my opinion on it. I can't really do much more with that, but yeah, that's my opinion. Just remasters, give them their own category. Let the game of the year be the new game.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, look,
And that's the thing on the Game Awards too. I think Resident Evil 4 is up for best game of the year for that one too, but it's going up against some pretty heavy hitters though. So I'm hoping it doesn't get it.
okay. Yeah, like Vank was saying, it's a stacked year, one of the best in memory, which is what a lot of people are saying, that there's been tons of really good games this year.
Mm.
I don't I just disagree just because most of what's come out this year, I haven't really had any interest in playing. Um, really the only games that I'm even interested in playing are Spider-Man 2 and Jedi Survivor.
I've been waiting for
Assassin's Creed Mirage, but I definitely wouldn't put that up in contention for game of the year.
I've been waiting for Alan Wake 2 since it first came out in 2010.
The original.
So,
however, because I don't really. I know they kind of leaned into it more from what I heard with Alan Wake 2. Is I typically don't. I'm not really into scary stuff when it comes to games or movies,
mm,
and I don't. I wouldn't really say Alan Wake 1 was a horror game, but it was definitely a spooky game. I think they leaned more into the scariness in Alan Wake 2, so I definitely don't have
yeah.
any interest in playing it. But I am a fan of Remedy because I liked Quantum Break and I loved Control. I can't
Mm.
wait for a Control 2.
Well, they say this actually ties those three games together. Alan
Yeah,
Wake 2.
they are all tied together, so that's kind of cool what they're doing. They're making their Remedy, Remedy cinematic universe, or more like
Mm.
video game universe. But the games are all tied together. And Control even had an Alan Wake DLC in it.
Mm. I actually was working at Borders Books when the first Alan Wake came out, and there was a novelization of that. Now that was, that was
A
back when
novel about
audiobook.
a writer trying to write a book.
Yeah. But
The
but
irony.
there was audiobooks at that time, but it was a very small section at that time. Now audiobooks are pretty much taking over and getting rid of almost regular books. And when I heard that Sean Ashmore, who played Iceman in the X-Men movies, and then he
X-Men,
also
and he
was
was
one of
the
the main
main character in
characters
Quantum
in,
Break.
yeah, yeah, when I heard that he was going to be in Alan Wake 2, I actually messaged him through Twitter and I said, "Hey, it's great that you're going to be in this game. You're a great actor, but there's a novelization of Alan Wake that's available, but I think it's a lost opportunity that they never did an audiobook version of that novelization with the guy who
Yeah,
did the voice of Alan Wake doing the narration."
that would be cool.
And and he actually was like, "I'm going to talk to them about this," and I'm like, "Yeah, it's probably going to go nowhere," but you
It's
never
like,
know.
how did no one think of this? How is this not a thing?
It's a game about an author, so then the book is about a game that's about an author, and you're going to tell me that there's no audiobook with the guy doing the voice of the author doing the voice over the narration? That writes itself. How did nobody on the studio pick that up?
Yeah, it's like a no-brainer.
Mm-hmm.
But and yeah, Vanquish is kind of right there with us. But he said that the RE4 and Dead Space remakes were great, but they shouldn't be in contention for Game of the Year.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed. He also has played some Alan Wake 2 so far, and he's loving it, but it has some annoyances. So
Yeah.
yeah, I haven't really followed it at all because I have no interest in Alan Wake. But whenever we do hear more about a Control sequel, I will be all over that because I love that game. I'm looking forward to playing it again because I've got I bought the Ultimate Edition, which is the series, the Xbox Series version, but it
Mhm.
also came with the Xbox One version. So I've played the Xbox One version because I didn't have a series yet, but now I've got the series, so I plan to play it again on the Xbox Series version,
Mhm.
and I'm looking forward to playing through that again.
Are you into Hellboy at all? Because Hellboy's got a new game out.
I know nothing about Hellboy other than he was played by Ron Perlman.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's actually the guy. I cannot think of his name.
Guillermo del
Lance
Toro.
Reddick.
Oh, Lance Reddick.
Yeah, he actually is doing the voice of of Hellboy. It's one of the last projects he did before his untimely passing.
Another big name death. I was sad to hear that. I didn't even know he was in the Hellboy franchise, but I liked him in John Wick, and he was the voice of Zavala in Destiny.
He was also Silas in Horizon series.
I was going to say, I haven't played Horizon, but I know that he was also a voice of a main character in that game as well. So yeah, another big name loss.
Yeah, and they said actually they found out the day before he passed away he was playing Destiny. He actually did some voices in Destiny, I think, like you were saying, and I was like, wow, a gamer right up until the end, you know, just.
Yeah, he seemed like he would have been a cool guy to hang out with.
Oh yeah, he actually did some voiceover work for one of my favorite adult animated cartoons on Netflix called Paradise PD.
Never heard of it.
Yep, he did a guy that had, we'll just say, really big area down there, like almost freakishly large. And yeah, the whole joke was that when these aliens attacked, they were like this big. They're like bigger than your head. And when the aliens attacked, they like something overtook them, and it literally shrank them just that much. And people were telling him how much smaller it is now, and ripping on him. His wife was leaving him and everything like that. And I'm just like, of course they go this route with it. It's
wow, that really sounds nuts.
Wow. That I don't know if you like adult animation or any of those kind of crude comedies, but that was very much one of them.
I'd never really, we were talking about South Park a few minutes ago. I'd never really seen more than a couple episodes of South Park until probably 5 or 6 years ago. And now I've seen probably everything past season 12 ish, a number of times. So I've seen a lot of it now. So, and I've liked that. I was always a big fan of Family Guy.
See,
but it's probably what you're talking about is probably a little bit more adult than that.
Oh yeah. We're actually gonna have a doctor come on, or a psychiatrist come on, who my wife actually went to school with, and I've gotten to know her pretty well over the last couple decades. I know that sounds weird. Over the last few decades. But yeah, she's gonna be coming on, and she actually said she hates South Park. But I asked her, I said, "What episodes have you seen?" And she was like, "Oh, I saw all of the first season." And I was like, you can't really base what the show is now based on the first season, because it's almost a completely different show.
Yeah, for many years, basically, season 1 is the only thing I had seen of it, and I was like, I don't get the appeal for it. And then I saw some of the later stuff, and I was like, oh, okay, now I get it.
Mm-hmm. And I told her, I said, watch everything after season 5, or if you don't even want to get started that early, go to, and I even said season 12 and start from there. It will, you'll understand the appeal, especially as they've gotten, as the characters or the creators have gotten older and more mature, and their writing has tightened up, and they don't just rely on a bunch of fart jokes a lot of times. I said they've actually honed this structure of how to tell a coherent story.
Yeah, especially with their last few specials have been right on the money.
Oh God, the way they ripped Kathleen Kennedy up one side down the other.
The Pandaverse was hilarious.
I guess that got so bad that even Michael Eisner and Kathleen Kennedy contacted Paramount Pictures to yell at them for letting South Park do what they did, and they were Paramount pretty much said, "You guys you're not above being parodied. We can say what we want, and you can't get us." So.
You said Michael Eisner. I think you mean Bob Iger?
Bob Iger. I'm sorry. Yeah, not Michael Eisner. He was before. Yeah, Bob Iger.
Okay. I was like, I've heard the name Michael Eisner, but I was like, I don't know who that is, but I'm assuming you meant Bob Iger.
Yeah.
And Kathleen Kennedy. Yeah, they were like, how dare they make fun of us? Take them down. It's like, yeah, you're just proving everything they say about you right.
Mm-hmm. Eisner, actually, it went Bob Iger was in charge, then Michael Eisner, and then Bob Iger again.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, I was confused with that. But, yeah, it's just like, don't sit there and yell at them. That, if you yell at somebody for parodying you, that just makes you look bad. Doesn't make them look bad,
Yeah.
That's why I like a lot of the celebrities that South Park does parody. Most of them don't care. They sit there, and a lot of them will say it was funny. Some will say I didn't find it funny, but I'm not going to yell at them. I think who
Yeah,
was
trying to
that?
get someone taken down because you don't like them making fun of you. Talk about being an ultra Karen.
Yeah, Tom Cruise did that. He actually got mad because he was doing a Mission Impossible movie when they did the Trapped in the Closet episode where they
Oh.
had and he got super upset because they ripped Scientology up one side and down the other.
Yeah, they did.
And yeah, he actually told them they had to pull the episode for out of reruns, or he wasn't going to promote the new Mission Impossible movie. And it was like, wouldn't that just screw you over? Because don't you get like some sort of stipend for every ticket that's bought? You know?
Was that I could be getting it mixed up, but was that also the episode where they kept calling Tom Cruise a fudge packer because he was in the fudge factory packing fudge?
No, but that was the one that led up to that, though.
Okay. You can't just call someone a fudge packer. It's like you're packing fudge in a fudge factory. What am I supposed to call you?
That was actually that's a banned episode. That's episode 200 that they had to ban because of their jokes about the Prophet Muhammad.
Okay, yeah, I remember Muhammad was in that one too. And I was always curious because he was always covered by like a black censored bar. Did they put that in originally, or was that not there and they had to put that in because of censors? I was always curious about that.
I think because you never hear him talk. So I think it was always supposed to be a joke that the bar that says censored was supposed to be there. But they went and censored every reference to him, and I think that was Comedy Central that referenced, "Hey, this is Muhammad," and that's when you heard like, "This is beep," and then his whole speech at the end about tolerance and not using violence as a way of getting what you want. That whole speech was taken out.
Oh, okay. I think, yeah, because I think I've seen
Central.
that one. So I've got the original. Because I was always curious if the original was uncensored or not, but it seems like it was partially. Well, it was partially censored by design.
Mm-hmm. Partially, but there was, I guess they don't have them anymore, but if you can find old DVDs of, I want to say season 5, there actually is an episode called Super Best Friends where Muhammad is actually there with like Jesus and Moses and Seaman for some reason. He's
Super Best Friends and Seaman. It's Seaman.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's there and he's talking, he's fighting, and I'm like, how come there was no problem back then, but there was a problem here? You know?
Yeah, snowflakes. Yeah, I think I've seen that episode. So
yeah, I love that. It's Seaman. It's like, no, what do you want, Seaman?
I just referenced that just recently, like a couple days ago. It's like the Super Best Friends and Seaman. It's Seaman.
I guess somebody did that to what's his name? The guy that plays Aquaman. Jason Momoa? Yeah. Somebody did that. They were like, "Hey, what's going on, Seaman or something like that," like when he was on the red carpet for something completely different.
He seems like he would be someone who kind of roll with it.
Yeah, he did.
Speaking of Momoa, did you see Fast X?
No,
that was the most recent one.
No, I haven't seen that yet.
Okay, I'm pretty sure that because I know Jason Momoa was the bad guy in the most recent one, which I think was X.
I love how they get these big names to be villains in these movies. Like, Charlize Theron was the one before that, and
yeah, she was Fate of the Furious. I don't remember who. Oh, in 9, it was John Cena, and although he turned out not being the ultimate bad guy, the guy was some rich, snobby kid basically who had this money. But yeah, anyways, the reason I was saying that is because Jason Momoa's character in the latest Fast and Furious was great. He was just like this flamboyant, over the top, he was pretty funny, just how nuts his character was. So I really liked his performance in the most recent Fast movie.
That's that was like my reaction when Tom Cruise was I can't think of the character's name, but when he was in Tropic Thunder. He was not really a villain, but he was just way over the top. And
oh god, I have it. I hear it all the time, and I just saw it a bunch.
Is it
Les Grossman?
Grossman, okay.
Les Grossman, yes. His character in Tropic Thunder, despite being just a little cameo, was hilarious.
And he's actually said him and Ben Stiller are in talks to possibly do a Tropic Thunder 2. And I'm like, in today's climate,
In
that would be
today's climate,
awesome. But
that would be great, but you're gonna get banned.
you'll get canceled or whatever right away. I don't know though, but because I mean, think about it. Most of the people that made that movie a huge hit are still around, so I'd definitely go out and see it.
Heck yeah, yeah. As long as they didn't,
They'd probably
as long as
fun at cancel culture.
hopefully, yeah. As long as they're not, worrying about what people are gonna say and you're gonna stick to, making it be funny regardless of what the critics are gonna say. I think it would be hilarious.
And Ben Stiller, actually, somebody called him out on Twitter saying, quit apologizing for this movie. And he actually snapped back. He said, I've never apologized for that movie. I'm proud of it. I love their standing by their work.
Yes. Go Ben Stiller.
I can see, things do need to change in the world, and yeah, does need to be more acceptance. But at the same time, it's like, leave these movies that were made decades before, or even just a few years before, leave them alone. They were made at a time when things were different,
Yeah, I mentioned this on a stream when we were basically talking a very similar topic. Like one of the changes that was made, on the big change on ET. Do you remember about that?
Yeah, the guns were replaced with walkie-talkies.
Yeah, they swapped out the guns with walkie-talkies like 30 years after the movie came out, and I'm pretty sure after the fact, Steven Spielberg said, I regret doing that. So, yeah, it's like, just leave the things the way they are.
That's, they did something similar. I can't think, but I know George Lucas was actually kind of called out because he's always changing the Star Wars movies.
Yeah,
and it was like,
he does.
Yeah, he replaced Anakin Skywalker at the end of Return of the Jedi. He replaced
Ghost. Yeah, with I don't. Who knows what the original guy, the actor, what his name was, but yeah, replaces Force Ghost with Hayden.
Then he tries saying, "Oh, that was always the plan." It's like, no, it wasn't.
Christensen.
Yeah, Hayden Christensen.
I was like, what was his last name? I blanked on it for a second. But yeah, one of the changes that I do agree with was in Empire, the hologram for the Emperor. They changed that after the fact to, instead of being whoever the original actor was, they had it replaced with now I'm blanking on his name, the Emperor, the actor that we all know as the Emperor. They replaced, because they had someone else originally play the Emperor in Empire Strikes Back when Vader's on the little hologram pad. They replaced it with the newer actor. I think that was a good change, but yeah, a lot of the other changes should just left it the way it was.
Ian McDonald.
McDonald?
It's what, or McDarren. I'm not sure how to say his name.
Okay, let's say yes.
Diamid.
McDermott.
McDavid. There's no R there.
Really? Oh, maybe I had his name wrong all these years. But
there is.
I thought it was McDermott. But yeah, they replaced the original Emperor on hologram with Ian McDermott, and I was like, okay, that was a good change. But yeah, so
yeah, I know that recently they did. I don't know. Did you see the new Indiana Jones movie?
No.
Yeah, I saw it, and Harrison Ford did a good job for what he had to work with, but at the same time, I was like, putting his 20, 30-year younger face over this body, it would work if it was being minimized, but I mean, that's the whole first part of the movie, It's like,
yeah, that's what I've heard. Yeah,
it worked just because it worked for Princess Leia in what was that, Star Wars?
Rogue One.
Rogue One, yeah, just because it worked for her. But yeah, but that was like, you saw her for 5 seconds.
They did the same thing with Moff Tarkin. Although I don't know if, it was right before A New Hope, so he would have been a Moff at that time. But yeah, Tarkin, they did the same thing.
But you saw him for 5 seconds. You couldn't really sit there and criticize it, but or at least not pick it apart for what it looked like. This was like the first 20, 30 minutes of Indiana Jones was this, and it was like, okay, I know what Harrison Ford looks like in real life. That's not him. I can't do this.
Yeah, if you're gonna do it for like a cameo or just a short thing, okay. But yeah, if you're gonna make it, a huge part of the movie, it's like maybe you should recast or do something else.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, I agree with Vanquish here, saying if you're making it this changes for the sake of story continuity, but not for being more PC. Agreed.
Yeah, agreed.
So, all right, well, kind of shifting gears back towards video games. We were talking about so Golden Joystick gave the ultimate game of the year to Baldur's Gate 3. Would that be your pick for game of the year?
No. My personal pick, and it's mostly just because I haven't played it, so I don't want anybody to think I'm being mean to that game. I just haven't played it.
What would your pick be?
My pick would either be Alan Wake 2, even though I haven't officially played that one. I've seen a lot of videos of it, and I know how well Remedy does their games. I would say either that or my personal pick would be Spider-Man 2.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I have not played a single game on this list. Well, I mean, I played the original Metroid Prime, but I haven't played the remaster because I don't have a Switch. I do the only one that I have access to, and I do plan to. Well, no, I have access to a few of these, but like one of them on here is Sea of Stars, which is another JRPG, which I have zero interest in playing, even though I've heard lots of good things about it. But like Dead Space is now on the Dead Space remaster is on Game Pass. I will play that at some point, just because I've heard it is a really good game. It's just not high on my priority list. And we were talking about Assassin's Creed. I will play Mirage at some point because I do want to play basically every game in the franchise, but that's not high on the priority list. But I am looking forward to playing Jedi Survivor at some point.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, the only game on this entire list, because I don't really play new games. I'm very frugal. I usually don't play games until I can get like the game of the year with all the DLC for like 50% off. So like a year or two after the game has been out. So I don't play new stuff very often. But the only game on this list, I have not played any game on this list, so I can't pick anything. The only game I've even played that even released this year, as I mentioned to you before we started the stream, was Fist, Forged in Shadow Torch, which is a Metroidvania. And like I said, that's my genre of expertise. I run a Metroidvania contest on True Achievements, and that was the game of the month for 1 month. So that's why I played that one. I didn't even know it had come out this year. I just knew it was added to Game Pass recently, and then I found out that it was day one launch on Game Pass. So by default, that would have to be my pick for Game of the Year because it's the only one I've even played. I liked it. It wasn't an amazing game. So if there were any other games that I had played this year, it probably wouldn't win. But I did enjoy it, but it wasn't, definitely wouldn't put it in contention for any Game of the Year awards.
Right. Understandable.
So Vanquish has a good question here. What's your biggest surprise of the year? Mine would be Dave the Diver, which I've heard a lot of good things about. And I think it was when Vanquish was on open mic not too long ago. He was telling me about Dave the Diver, which I was just listening to I went back and I listened to probably like 4 or 5 open mics over the last 2 nights. And when Vanquish is on, I just re-listened to that one again last night. And that's so I think I remember him telling me about Dave the Diver, and he was really liking that game. So biggest surprise, and I mentioned this when he was on and talking about Dave the Diver, because I hadn't really seen anything about Dave the Diver, but another game that's very similar that came out almost the same time, and then a lot of people that I follow were talking good things about it, was Dredge. I heard a lot of good things about Dredge, and that was kind of a surprise hit. But I have to think about a little more about a big surprise. So if you got anything,
I would say Bramble was my big surprise.
Bramble.
Yeah,
I think
Bramble.
I've heard that name, but that's it.
Yep. Bramble the Mountain King. It's an indie game. I believe it's on both PlayStation and Xbox. It's a lot like in the same realm as like Little Nightmares, if you ever played that.
Okay. I've played I've played a good chunk of the first one. I haven't completed it yet. I have to I've gotten through most of the game, but I haven't finished it. Or at least finish the story, but I do plan to go back and complete that game. I do have it on my backlog.
But yeah, the music for that, I mean, it was one where I had
Yeah.
never really even heard about it until just until just a few months before it was supposed to come out. And
Oh,
then I saw
Bramble.
people,
I didn't
huh?
know this, but Bramble is on Game Pass.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how I played it.
Okay.
But yeah,
Yeah, it's only
I hadn't
$10.
really heard about it until I actually saw somebody playing the demo of it, and I was like, "What? This looks great. What is it?" And then I had to wait a few months for it to come out, and it was one that I picked up right away, but I couldn't play right away. But once I got to it, I mean, I was just hooked from the very first frame and all the way through the end. I was just super into it. It was one of those that just came out of nowhere and just knocked me right off my feet.
Okay. Yeah, I had never seen a single frame of this game until just now, and I definitely understand. It almost looks like Little Nightmares with a art style uh, taken from Brother, Tale of Two Sons.
Yeah, yeah, very much so.
Interesting. Okay. You know what? I'm given that it's on Game Pass, I might add that to my backlog.
Mm.
And it's only an 8 to 10 hour completion, so it's not terribly long.
Yep.
So that
If
always is a bonus.
if you got Game Pass, I would recommend those. There was one, I want to say it was last year that it came out, but it was also came out with some DLC, substantial DLC. It was called High on Life. It
Oh,
was by the same creators of Rick and Morty.
Rick and Morty. Yeah, that is. I think that DLC just came out just
Yeah.
recently.
It's like a $30 DLC, but the primary
Wow, that's
game is
really
free
chunky.
on Game Pass.
Yeah, it is on Game Pass. High on Knife came out October 3rd, and $15.
15, okay.
At least on Xbox. I'm assuming it's probably the same on PlayStation. Assuming it even exists on PlayStation and PC. But yeah,
Um,
I'm looking forward to probably playing that at some point as well. Even though I've never watched Rick and Morty, but I think from what I've heard, I would probably like the comedy in it,
oh yeah.
anyways.
Yep, and then
And,
Ghostwire Tokyo was one that I picked up on Game Pass as well.
okay.
That was a PlayStation exclusive, but once
Oh,
Xbox
that's
bought
right.
Bethesda put it on Game Pass.
Yeah, it was kind of like very similar to not Death Stranding, Deathloop,
That
where
yeah.
it was a PlayStation exclusive during the time of the Bethesda acquisition, and then after that, due to the contract, they got a year head start, and then as soon as that year was up, Deathloop came to Game Pass.
Mhm. Yeah, actually, I heard kind of a rumor that Xbox actually bought the guy who did the voice of the main character in Deathloop, because it stayed on PlayStation for about a year before it came to Xbox because
Right.
Xbox was honoring the deal that they had in place. So they actually bought the actor who had played the main character. They bought him a PlayStation 5 and gave it to him specifically so he could play Deathloop. Because he was saying on social media, he was sitting there going like, "Oh, I'm really sad that I was, I'm being nominated for these things, and everyone's telling me what a great job I did, but I can't play the finished product because I can't get a PlayStation." And Xbox bought him a PlayStation.
Oh, because it was during the time where you still couldn't
Mhm.
find them anywhere, right?
Yeah, yeah. So, but
Okay, that's
Xbox got a
funny.
hold of
That's
one and sent
awesome.
it to him.
That's awesome. Okay, so let's see here. That did ring jogged my memory. I don't remember the name of the game. I'm looking for it right now. But a game that I'm pretty sure came out this year. Did it not come out this year? Where is it? Is it on? Oh, it might be on page 2. That I know was a big hit. Where is it? Tunic. Let's see here. Was that this year? Tunic. Oh, wow. Tunic came out in March of last year. I thought that came out this year. Okay. Well, either way, I've heard lots of good things about it, and I am looking forward to playing Tunic at some point. It's basically a Zelda-like, um, and you actually have an in-game like instruction manual in a
Mhm.
language you can't read, and you have to figure out these puzzles to fill in the blanks and fill out your instruction manual. So,
Oh yeah.
interesting concept. So, I've heard lots of good things about it. So, I'm looking forward to playing that. I thought that came out this year, so I was going to say that was a big surprise from this year, but apparently it came out last year. So, I guess it doesn't qualify. Um, and then another one, I don't know if it's a big hit yet, but it just came out like last week and it looks like a lot of fun. And it would launch day one on Game Pass, is RoboQuest. It's basically Borderlands,
Mhm.
with 4-player co-op, and it's a roguelite. So it looks like a fun game to get a crew together and play that. That looks like it might be a lot of fun. And we have a
And
couple people hopped in the chat here in the last few minutes.
I just saw Paul Hadouken is here.
Paul
Paul
Hadouken, hello, buddy. We were talking about you at the beginning of the stream. All good things. And Shaka Zulu's here as well. Hello, Shaka Zulu. Good to see you. Oh,
And thank you
Kenzo
again,
here.
Paul, for coming on our show last week.
Oh, yeah, Kenzo's here hopping in to say hi and bye. Off to bed. He is in the UK, so he is many hours ahead. It's probably like 5 in the morning or something over there. Hello, Kenzo, and good night. Hope you get some sleep. And let's see here. Did anyone play the new Zelda? I respect the hell out of it, but I just can never get into it. Yeah, so we were talking about that probably before you got here. I have not played it because I don't have a Switch, but when I do get a Switch, primarily to play Metroid Dread, I will also be getting Tears of the Kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
So have you played Tears of the Kingdom at all?
No.
Okay. Yeah,
not
so
yet.
To answer your question, no, neither of us have played it. I do plan to play it at some point, though.
My neighbor is yelling at me to play it. He's probably even sitting out on his balcony right now yelling at me to play it because he does.
He's watching through his binoculars, see what you're playing on your screen. Hey,
yeah.
Is that Zelda?
Yeah.
No, it's not Zelda. Play Zelda.
Mm-hmm.
So
I see him walking his dog every so often, and the first thing I say, I'm like, "Hey, how's it going?" He's like, "Hey, have you played Zelda yet?" And I'm like, "No." Yeah.
No. I'm going to. Dang it! I will tell you when I have. So, okay. So
he says the new Zelda is fun, but not fun if you love Zelda lore.
Okay. Interesting. I'd be curious to find out what exactly makes you say that. So if you I know it might be kind of a lot to type, but I would be interested to hear why if you are a fan of the lore, you might not like it. And Paul says he needs to play Breath of the Wild, but even though he owns it. But yeah, big game. And I know a lot of big Zelda fans are not huge fans of the new direction they've taken it. So, yeah. So
like we said, it was the same with Assassin's Creed when they went from action stealth to action RPG.
Yeah, a lot of people were not big fans of it, but then they found a whole new audience that are big fans of it. So I know that a lot of people have really liked the direction they've taken Zelda. So if it's working for them. Oh, Vanquish says the same thing. He hasn't played it yet. So another category on here, I'd be interested to hear what your answer is most wanted game. So basically any game that's been announced that isn't out yet. Is there any big games that you're looking forward to?
I mean, there's always games that I'm looking forward to. Let's see, what is actually you said
Doesn't even have. It's right above the Ultimate Game of the Year. If you want to look at the list, it definitely doesn't have to be something that's on this list. This is just a bunch of big announcements that haven't come out yet. So, but my most anticipated game, and has been my most anticipated game since I heard about it probably close to 2 years ago, is on this list. So I'm curious what yours might be.
I would say out of the ones that are on this list, it would be Fable. Okay. For one that I can say that I know that I'm excited for that's not on this list, there's one coming out. I don't think they have a release window for it yet, but it's called The Inquisitor. It's actually based on the old book series.
I've never heard of it.
It's a little controversial, but so basically, The Inquisitor tells the story of, it's like I said, it's real controversial, like it's into religion, but it basically tells the story of what if Jesus wasn't as forgiving? What wasn't this prophet full of love? What if at the end, like during his crucifixion, what if instead of, saying, forgive them, Father, what if he ripped himself off the cross and killed everybody in vengeance?
Interesting concept.
But then it goes into like the 16th century, and you play as an inquisitor. You know, the inquisitors around that time were very religious figures, and they would go in. They were pretty much detectives, and they would go in and pretty much play judge, jury, and executioner to find out if somebody was lying, if they were sinning, if they were sinning for a good reason, if they were just a bad person, if they were set up, if they were actually good, you know. And they would either absolve them of their sins, so to speak, or they would punish them for their sins and condemn them to hell. Well, this
Sounds
game
kind of
takes,
like blasphemous.
yeah. Well, this game takes it a bit further, and the book series takes it a bit further. And if you're condemned to hell, he pretty much kills you right there. And says,
Did
you
you
know, huh?
did you ever play Blasphemous?
No, I
Okay.
haven't played. No,
I played it earlier this year, and because I bought it a couple years ago and
mhm.
played a little bit of it, and I wasn't a huge fan of it, and kind of put it off, and then I ended up actually playing it in full earlier this year, and I really enjoyed it.
Okay. But yeah, the game puts you in the position of the Inquisitor, and then you get to go and you get to investigate and find out all these things, and then a lot of it is going to have to be finding the person. So it's a lot of stealth. Sometimes they're being protected, and then other times, you're going to find them right away. But then the game actually lets you decide if you believe they're sinning, if you believe that if they were set up, what have
You
you,
get to
and then
choose.
lets you choose if you're going to go after them. And then if you do choose to go after them, sometimes they can know that you're coming after them, and then that changes the whole gameplay.
I've never
So,
heard of it, but I'm definitely intrigued.
first time I heard about that, I was like, "Are you kidding me?" Okay, first of all, that's gonna anger a big chunk of your audience, but
Probably.
controversy sells. So, as Grand Theft Auto has proven, controversy sells.
Yep.
But then at the same time, they introduced a new game. It's more of a walking simulator game that's going to be on the complete opposite end of that, where it's going to be called I Am Jesus Christ, and that's a
I
very
was
family-friendly game that lets you play as Jesus.
I was literally thinking about that game like an hour before we started the stream, because I remember hearing about it not too long ago, and I was like, I wonder if that game ever came out. So I'm interested to see people stream that, because that seems like that could be kind of funny.
I was asking my wife. I said, "Do you think they'll put out the Inquisitor out against I Am Jesus Christ and just see what happens in the sales?" But I was like, she said it would probably I Am Jesus would probably sell more, just because that's an indie game that's going to cost you $10-15, where the Inquisitor is going to be a 70.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. I Am Jesus Christ is going to be on Unreal Engine 5. I did not know that.
Yep.
Let's see here. It is not out yet. It is still wish list available with no release date announced. Okay, so it's not out yet.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I remember seeing a video for that not too long ago. I'm like, yeah, I'm interested to see how this turns out.
Yep.
And
I think Inquisitor, I don't think has a release window, or maybe it does now. But
yeah, you let me know what if you find anything on that. And so Paul, I agree. I'm interested in Obsidian's next game, Avowed, basically Obsidian's answer to Elder Scrolls, which was not on this list for most wanted game nominees. But I forgot about that until you mentioned it. I'm definitely interested in seeing more from that game. And then Vanquish comes in with, off the top of my head, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, which is the winner on this list. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is what won most wanted game. For me, my pick and my most anticipated game, because there hasn't really been a whole lot of games that I've really been anticipating for a while now. So my most anticipated game since I heard about it a couple years ago is Black Myth Wukong. I cannot wait for this game. It looks freaking awesome. It looks kind of like a blend. So like I was saying earlier, one of my favorite games of all time is Ninja Gaiden Black. And basically, since the Ninja Gaiden franchise kind of disappeared, given that we haven't gotten anything in Ninja Gaiden 3, which came out in 2008. Let's see here. Ninja Gaiden 3. No, that's the Xbox One version. 2013. Okay, so I was off by a few years. But yeah, it's been 10 years since we've gotten a Ninja Gaiden game. But we've gotten tons of Souls-like, but they are very different in how they play. I haven't really played any Souls-like game. The only Souls-like game I've even played so far is Fallen Order, which I was a fan of, but it's definitely probably not up there when it comes to, Souls-likes are known to be very difficult. Fallen Order, at least unless you're playing on the hardest difficulty, isn't terribly difficult, whereas most Souls games don't even have a difficulty option. You just play it at, it's as difficult as it is, and you have to get good. So it's kind of like, I would say Fallen Order is like a Souls light, or Souls-like light. So I haven't really played much in the Souls-like franchise. I've got Elden Ring in my backlog. I've got Dark Souls Remastered, so I'll definitely be playing some of them eventually. But from what little I've played of them, I don't like them as much as I like the way Ninja Gaiden does hack and slash. So Black Myth Wukong looks more like it's a blend of the styles. So I'm very much looking forward to that. Because a lot of these Souls-like also have a lot of heavy RPG elements where you get like gear and stuff and you make your character better. Whereas that's kind of one of the biggest differentiators between the Ninja Gaiden games and most Souls-like. Ninja Gaiden, you don't really have any gear. You just get different weapons and you can level them up, but you don't have stats or anything. And I'm a big fan of that because everything's basically gone this Souls-like RPG route. So from what I've seen of Black Myth Wukong, it definitely looks more so a Ninja Gaiden style hack and slash than a Souls-like. There's still not a whole lot of information out about it, but we have been getting more and more video, and I've really liked what I've seen. So I am very much anticipating this game and cannot freaking wait for it.
Yeah, and I just found out here it says that release window is February of 2024, so actually not that far away.
For Black Myth?
No, for Inquisitor. I'm sorry.
Oh, Inquisitor. Okay, you got my hopes up. I'm like, I didn't think it was
sorry.
It was going to be coming out that soon. Inquisitor. Wow, that's only a few months away, and I've never even heard of it before. So, let's see here. Is there any? I'm curious though. Is there anything about a launch release date? Just says 2024, so that could be at the end of the year. So I would be surprised if it even comes out next year and it's not 2025.
Right. I mean, we've heard very little about this game. They gave one an announcement trailer and then one trailer since then, but they haven't really done much about it.
Yeah. So okay, so Shaka Zulu, I think, is giving more background on his answer about Tears of the Kingdom. Game takes place so far in the future, it's a soft recon. I'm assuming that meant retcon. They softly connect all the timelines together to make events in other games ambiguous. Okay. So kind of if I know when James, I don't know if it was when James and Kay were on Open Mic or Party Chat, but we talked about the branching timelines on the Zelda and how it's very convoluted as opposed to the Metroid franchise. It's basically like nice and neat where the Prime games take place, I think, between Metroids 1 and 2 or something like that.
Right.
So it sounds like they're muddying those waters even more. But he says that it is still fun, although the older games are superior. So, understandable. Understandable. Here, and Vanquish brings it. I wonder if Max Payne remakes will come out next year. That would be my top pick. Okay. Have they announced anything about Max Payne remakes / remasters? I've not heard anything. But I definitely think that would be a good thing. I never played any of the Max Payne games, and I always wanted to. So if they bring them back, I would very much be interested in playing them.
And if they make another movie on it, they need to not have Mark Wahlberg as Max Payne and actually give it the R rating it deserves.
Was that movie not R?
It was PG-13.
I never saw it, but they made it PG-13. Oh, that's terrible. And
that's like when they did the new Mortal Kombat movie. I was like, if you PG-13 this, I am going to be so upset. And then they actually gave us the fatalities. I'm like, this is what it should be.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't seen the new Mortal Kombat movie, so I wasn't sure whether it was PG-13 or R. So it sounds like they did go R.
The new one, they went R. The original, they went PG-13, and I can see why, because that was like early 90s. They didn't really know how to make a video game movie. Now we've had so many that have sucked, but we've had a few that show that you're getting better at the craft. So that means respect
Yeah,
the source material.
the Mario and Sonic movies have done huge numbers.
Oh god. And the way Sonic looked when they first announced it, it's like
And, and the
no.
fact that they listened to the audience and actually, didn't just be like, no, you take what we give you, and made him actually look more like the character. Definitely paid off for him.
Well, I would have seen it looking the way that it did, even before. I still would have seen it because the movie itself looked good, and I could have eventually gotten over what Sonic looked like, but just the initial shock when I first saw it was like, oh god, what are you doing here?
Did you see? I haven't seen the whole movie. I've seen bits and pieces of it, but the recent Chip and Dale's movie, uh,
I
or Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers movie.
no, I saw the trailers for it, and I've seen a couple scenes here and there, and
Okay,
it's
because
just not. It doesn't hold my interest. The trailer barely
understandable.
holds my interest.
The reason why I ask is because one of the first scenes in the movie, Ugly Sonic was in it as one of the characters.
Oh, okay.
So they had all these like kind of rejected characters that were going to cons and stuff,
Mm.
to meet fans, and Ugly Sonic was one of them.
I wonder
So
how much
that's
Disney had to pay for that.
yeah, I don't know, but yeah. So let's see
I
here.
know it's no longer Halloween, but I always ask my wife whenever we watch Gremlins. Did you ever see the first Gremlins?
I've seen the first one. I never saw the second one though.
Remember when they're sitting in the movie theater and they're watching Snow White?
All the Gremlins are.
Yeah. I'm like, well, that was but the movie was done by Amblin, and I don't think that was owned by Disney. So I was like, and I told her, I said, I'll bet you anything because of Spielberg's success with like Jaws and E.T. and Raiders of the Lost Ark and all these other ones. That's the only reason Disney probably allowed them to have Snow White playing on the screen for the all these little like monster puppets to be going like, hi ho, hi ho. Like
I
they
wouldn't have known what was playing if you hadn't said it, because I've seen it once and it was probably 10 years ago. So I vaguely remember it. Um, but I do know what you're talking about. So
Mhm.
yeah, so they had Snow White playing. Interesting.
Yep, they
Yeah.
had Snow White playing, and the Gremlins were loving it, and that's actually kind of what got them. They kind of put them into that theater, and that's how they actually got them to be burned, and take out a whole bunch of them before the epic climax between Billy and Gizmo and Stripe.
Okay.
And I was like, it was just because Disney had worked with Spielberg and they knew that he wouldn't disrespect the brand. Even
That
though you look at it, kind of
uh,
did. But
that very well could be. And yeah, so Shaka Zulu, you are right. Snow White, the fairy tale essentially is public domain, which is why Disney and Daily Wire are both doing a Snow White movie right now.
mm,
But since the movie theater in Gremlins was showing the Disney version, they would basically have to get Disney's permission to do that.
mm. That's why we just had Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, that horror movie that came out.
I heard that was terrible.
But it's supposed to be terrible, so it's one of those that's terrible on purpose.
I don't typically watch any of those type of movies, but the one that I am really interested to see, because it looks like it's really funny, is a cheesy slasher movie, is Slaughterhouse. Did you hear about Slaughterhouse?
I've heard of it. Yep.
That one looks really funny. I'm really interested in seeing that. I probably won't, just because I don't watch a whole lot, but I am definitely interested in it.
I think with Winnie the Pooh, they said they expected it to make like maybe 3 million at the box office, which is pretty low. But that would almost like triple its budget.
Yeah, I'm sure
And
it was made
then
on a shoestring budget.
yeah, but then it ended up making something like 9 or 14. So I'm like, now you've got this thing, and you can't tell me they're not going to make sequels, and I'm
Oh, it's
scared.
somewhere between 9 and 14 million.
Something like that. I don't know the exact numbers, but it did a lot better than they thought it would. And I was like, yeah, that's because there was like every article being written about it. And of course,
Okay.
that's actually I think they said that Winnie the Pooh is public domain. Disney tried to fight it, but they said they were making the movie based off of the book, not out of Disney's character. And then Disney pretty much still holds the rights to the characters they created for Winnie the Pooh. Like they still held the rights to Tigger and to Eeyore and to Rabbit. And that's why at the very beginning you see them eating some unknown animals. And the director said that's supposed to be Tigger and Eeyore and Rabbit.
So I just looked it up, and the budget for Blood and Honey was $100,000, and they made $5 million. So
Oh, 5
they
million.
definitely
Okay, I was
they
off.
made well over their they made their budget back, and then a ton more. So it was very profitable. So yeah, I definitely wouldn't be surprised to see a sequel at some point.
So they kind of did the Kevin Smith thing, make a very, very low budget and turn out huge profits no matter how well it does.
Yeah. And yeah, I don't know if Vanquish, you were here earlier, but yeah, we were talking about the Remedy, multiverse or connected universe. Yeah, I wouldn't say it's a multiverse. They do all take place in the same universe, but I know what you mean. Yes, I'm very interested in that because I liked Quantum Break and I loved Control. I'm just not very interested in Alan Wake. Okay, so
yeah, and like you said before, they leaned more into the horror for Alan Wake 2. The first one was kind of horror elements with a sci-fi story that was grounded in reality. This is more straight up horror.
Yeah, from what I've heard, it definitely leans more into the scary, the spooky. So that's I already wasn't interested in the first one, so if they're leaning more into that, I'm definitely not interested in the second one. Let's see if there are any nominees on the Game of the Year awards. Not basically the same ones. Alan Wake 2, Baldur's Gate 3, Spider-Man 2, Resident Evil 4, which shouldn't be on there. Super Mario Bros. Wonder, and Tears of the Kingdom. So looks like they keep their nominees to looks like 5 per category. So not like some of these Golden Joystick ones that have like 20 nominees.
Yeah, and why I can't watch them. It's just like, okay, by the time you're done reading the list, I'm asleep.
Yeah, looking at least for the Game of the Year awards, Best Independent Game, Dave the Diver and Dredge are both nominees, as is Sea of Stars, which I suspect that'll probably win, given all the good word I've heard about it. Viewfinder, which I've never even heard of, and then Cocoon, which I've heard a lot of good things about, and that launched into Game Pass just recently, and that is also my backlog, but I don't really know anything about it other than people have been saying good things about it. So my guess is probably going to be between Dave the Diver and Sea of Stars.
Yeah, but I see here there was also Best Game Adaptation, Castlevania, Gran Turismo, The Last of Us, the Super Mario Brothers movie, and Twisted Metal. Out of those, I would say I haven't seen it yet. I've got to get HBO Max, but I'm probably going to say that The Last of Us Part 2 or The Last of Us on HBO
probably going to win.
Probably going to win. I want it to go to the Super Mario Brothers movie, but it'll probably go to The Last of Us.
Yeah, out of those, are you looking at Game Awards or are you looking at Joystick?
Game Awards.
Okay, I'm trying to find the adaptation. Maybe I should do.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, there. I'm scrolling through it and I just missed it. Out of those, I would probably say it should be between Mario Bros. And Gran Turismo because I've heard that's a really good movie. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Last of Us was the winner.
I saw a lot of advertisement for Twisted Metal, and then as soon as it came out, suddenly nothing.
Yeah, same. I didn't hear anything about it except from the people that I follow, who I've heard it was actually pretty decent. I've never played a Twisted Metal game, so I don't know anything about the franchise, so I couldn't say one way or the other. But from what I heard, it sounded like it was better than I anticipated. I thought it was going to be a terrible flop. Oh, and look, right as we're talking about Sea of Stars, Kaze hops in here because she is a big fan of Sea of Stars. It's amazing. Most fun I've had in a while. So, yeah, and Paul's saying Baldur's Gate 3 should win everything, which, given all of the good things I've heard about it and everything that they went into making the game, I would probably agree with that, even though I don't really have any interest in the game. But as Mark informed me on Party Chat, because he was basically trying to talk me into playing it, given that he knows that I'm not a big fan of turn-based combat.
Except South Park, we did establish that.
Yeah, except for the South Park games. Baldur's Gate has been in early access for a couple of years, so he's played it a bunch even before its 1.0 release this year. And that's probably why it launched in such a great state. Because, we're so used to these games launching in terrible states and needing tons of day one patches just to be able to run. And it was like pristine on launch day, is because it spent so much time in early access and had all these people playing it, giving them feedback. They were able to tweak it and have it launch. And I didn't hear a single word about glitches or bugs about that game at all. So it launched in a great state as well, which is, it should be expected. But when we get that nowadays, our expectations have lowered so much that it's like, oh my God, it launched in a decent state. We're surprised by it now.
After the catastrophe that was Cyberpunk 2077, I think a lot of game studios took note and like, let's fix these issues before we do this now.
And it was funny that because it launched in such a great state, and how well put together and how in depth the game is, that other developers are like giving them crap. It's like, hey, you're making us look bad. It's like, well, then do better. That's not their problem. That's your problem.
I think it was Jeff Neely himself who was kind of poking fun at the fact that Cyberpunk has more nominations this year than it did when it initially launched.
That's hilarious. That wouldn't surprise me though, because Mark was also talking about the 2.0 update and the Phantom Liberty DLC, and he said even if you don't get the Phantom Liberty DLC, the 2.0 update makes the game really good. So I don't have it, but I will likely play Cyberpunk at some point, but it may be years down the line. Heck, I still haven't even played Witcher 2 or 3 yet, and those are still in my backlog.
I joke with people and say, because I was streaming Cyberpunk, and they said, "Oh, what are you playing?" And I said, "Keanu Reeves, the game."
Oh, you're playing The Path of Neo.
No, the other one.
John Wick Hex.
Is that a thing? I don't know. Yeah. Oh, it is?
I've never played it, but it was the first John Wick game. It's basically like, I think it's plays like XCOM, but it's a John Wick game. I don't know what platforms it's on or when it came out, but I know it does exist.
Okay.
Shaka Zulu is saying that usually Game of the Year wins only Game of the Year, if not every other award. Yeah, they usually win like every category. It's like, can you give some of the other games a little love? And Vanquish agrees, saying that the Cyberpunk 2.0 and the Phantom Liberty are amazing and absolutely love it. So
I had some people that got mad the year that I think it was Red Dead Redemption 2 came out and God of War 2018, because those went head to head, and then Red Dead won almost every game award that it was up for, and then when it came to Game of the Year, God of War took it, and people were yelling out that it was rigged, and I was like, how do you rig this? That was.
It won like every other award.
Yeah, but it lost Game of the Year, and I was like, that's because people went on there probably specifically to vote for God of War as Game of the Year. Just that's how it worked. But then I had one guy that was just so convinced that there was like some sort of conspiracy theory, and I was like, okay, I'm not going into this, dude. Really.
Oh, yeah, and Shaka Zulu's making a good point. I like Cyberpunk, but there's no awards for launching in the state it was and missing what it promised. Yep, that's a fair point. Game of the Year 2 years after it came out, because now it's finally in a playable state. Although, from what I've heard, it's been in a playable state for a decent amount of time. But yeah, given the state it launched in, definitely a good point.
Yeah, that was hard. That's actually right after I got the radio show, as I was telling you about at the beginning of the show.
Okay.
That was one of the first major stories, and I think I had a guy from Best Buy on there, and I was just pretty much grilling him about the game. But I knew him personally, and so I was just sitting there going like, "So why would you sell this to me?"
Yeah. I think Mark was talking about, because he worked at GameStop for a while, and he was more on the side of the customer, despite, GameStop is like, you need to push all this stuff on people. But it's like, this isn't a good game. I want to tell people of good games, because they'll actually, come back and ask for my recommendations because they know I recommend them a good game. But GameStop's like, no, you need to recommend them what we tell you to. So, and Paul is saying, Gears of War is amazing. Yes, I agree. Gears of War is amazing.
Are you saying God of War?
No, I know he means God of War.
Okay.
I'm not like, I like Gears of War. But I would probably, even though I haven't even played God of War, I would pick God of War over Gears of War, just because I've liked Gears of War, but I'm not a huge fan of Gears of War. But I love hack and slashes, so I'm sure I would love the God of War franchise. So
Yeah.
I know he meant God of War. I was just messing with him.
What you were saying there about GameStop, that actually reminds me when I used to work at Best Buy, and I had this woman come in. She had a kid who couldn't have been more than 9 years old, and she was like, "Hi, can you show me where this game is? It's called Grand Theft Auto 5." And I was like, "Okay, is this
Nope.
for?" And then, well, I asked her, I said, "Is this for somebody else?" And she was like, "Oh, it's for him." This kid was like 9, and I was like, sitting there like, "Are you sure?" And she actually, I'm not kidding, she looked at me and she was like, "Oh, I know you got to say these, but I know games are for kids." And I was like, would you like to see what's in the game? The kid sitting there like, "I can handle it. I can handle it." And I'm like, "I'm not asking you, kid. I'm talking to your grandmother here."
Yeah, of course you're going to say that.
Yeah, so I actually had my cell phone on me at the time, and I pulled up YouTube, and I was like, "Hey, you want to see this? This is called the torture scene." And I showed her the entire scene where Trevor tortures that one guy in there, like, bashing his knees in, waterboarding him, electrocuting him, ripping his teeth out. And I was like, and to think this part of the game is not skippable. So you cannot do a parental lock on it. You cannot tell him not to play this. He has to if he's going to finish the game. Do you still want this? She freaked out going like, "I am not playing that." And I was like, "Oh, and by the way, there's actually strip clubs that have fully nude models. You get to touch them. And that while that part's skippable, there is a part in the game where you take over the strip club. So he can't avoid going in, so." And she was like, "Okay, find something different." That kid was so mad at me.
He probably give me the stink eyes. How dare you ruin my fun?
Mm-hmm.
Because Paul also used to work for Best Buy. And I think he had literally the exact same story where somebody was going to buy Grand Theft Auto for their kid. And it's like, no, I don't think you want to do that. Let me tell you why. And basically ruined that kid's fun. But did it for a good cause. I am all for that because parents need to pay more attention to what their kids are doing.
Oh, yeah. On the flip of that, though, I did have a kid come in. He was autistic. And I could tell he was autistic just the way he was acting. And the parent pulled me to the side and said, "Can you get him into something other than Mario? Because that's all we've heard for months." And he was just sitting there going like, "I only like Mario. I really like Mario." Like he was just super hyper focused on Mario. And I said, "Well, we don't have any new Mario games, but let me show you something here." It was Zelda Hyrule Warriors. And I said, "Now I know you
not
like
Hyrule Warriors, no."
Yeah. But I did. I actually started playing the demo of it because it hadn't come out at the time, but we had the demo.
Which I need to add is not a Zelda game.
Right. But I just started doing it where I was annihilating everybody. And I was like, "But look, see, Mario can't do that kind of stuff, can he?" And this kid's eyes just got really wide. And I was like, "Would you like to play?" And he took the controller and started playing like his life depended on it. And his mom looked at me and she was like, "How did you do that?" And I said, "Well, because I used to work with autistic kids. That used to be a job that I did back in 2007. I said I knew that he was interested, the way he was talking, the way he was looking at things. I could tell he was interested in it, but the autism doesn't allow him to know that he's interested in it. So once he saw I was having fun with it, he wanted to play." And then they looked at me and they were like, "Where's this game?" And I was like, "It doesn't come out for another 3 months." But they came back in. They came back in 3 months later. They bought the Switch. They bought the Wii U, and they bought all kinds of stuff from it. And they actually went up to my boss and said, "He's the reason you're getting this sale." And it was like a $500 sale.
Nice.
So
you sold a Wii U. That's impressive enough as it is.
Yeah, that was. I would not recommend the Wii U, but it worked in that case.
Shaka Zulu wants to know, was the kid's name James? Okay, come get your child, your man-child husband.
Wow.
So, I think he's still basically everyone's here now, but I think he's still streaming Ghostbusters. Otherwise, he'd probably be here too.
How's the new Ghostbusters game? Have you played it? Or you
probably haven't? I haven't played anything new, so
that's right.
I don't have any interest in it. But I know James is having fun. He's already played it like 70 hours in like the week and a half it's been out or something. So and he's been playing with off and on with a pretty consistent group. So, and he's a big fan of the whole not asynchronous, asymmetrical horror games.
Okay.
So I know that's really up his alley. But yeah, he's having a lot of fun from what I hear.
Kay says it's super fun.
Super fun. Yeah, the if there was a Ghostbusters game I was gonna play, it would probably be the 2009 or 11 or whatever. Basically, the one that everyone considers Ghostbusters 3, because I've heard nothing but good things about that game. I've never been big on the Ghostbusters franchise, so
I played that. That was a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, I've heard it's excellent. Yeah, and of course, Paul has to plug Deep Rock Galactic is king.
Tynan Vilmos, a streamer I watch on Twitch, plays that religiously.
So yeah, I was talking to Paul about it. I think when he was on Party Chat, or maybe it was on Discord or something. But apparently, that game has been out for a while. I'd only heard about it for the first time just a few months ago, but apparently, it's been out for like years.
Mm-hmm.
And he's gotten like a number of people into it. So let's see here. At least, did I spell it wrong? I did spell it wrong. Deep Rock Galactic. At least on Xbox, it came out in 2020. Maybe it's been on other platforms longer. Oh my goodness, it's a 300 to 500 hour completion. Dear Lord.
So, I love your reaction to that. Like,
if I do, because I told him I might be interested in playing because it is co-op. But if I do, I'm definitely going to be playing that on my alternate tag. I don't want that on my primary.
And what did Kay say there?
So apparently it's been out for ages. James used to try to get me to play it in like 2020 and didn't get why people loved it so much. So yeah, I didn't know it had been out more than a few months. So, but I do know that there's I think it's a phone game. It's basically Vampire Survivors in the Deep Rock universe. Came out recently or is coming out, but I haven't heard terribly great things about it. I know Paul knows more about it. Deep Rock Survivors, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't think it lives up to the Deep Rock Galactic name. So, yeah. I think that's... Yeah, I'm going to save that for later. So, yeah, I don't really have anything else on the agenda unless there's anything else you want to bring up. And we're already almost at 2 hours, and it feels like we just started.
Pretty much, that's the way a lot of our shows go too. If we go anywhere past an hour and a half, we're like, wow. But what would you say here? The core game is better than the spinoffs?
Yeah, I'm assuming you're talking about the core Deep Rock game is better than spinoffs. So, which
probably,
yeah, I think is usually the case in most franchises.
That's the way it seems with a lot of them anyway. Sometimes you get a spinoff that's just as good, but very rarely.
Yeah.
I would say the last time I saw a spinoff that was just as good was actually it's not that long ago. It's actually Spider-Man Miles Morales.
Okay.
And that was, I would say, the spinoff Miles Morales was just as good as the first game and the DLCs, which the DLCs were pretty much just extensions of the story. And yeah, and I'm hoping they do the same with the second one, because I am 99% positive at the Game Awards we are going to hear about DLC coming out for Spider-Man 2.
Okay.
Because they do about 1 million announcements.
Announcements, yeah. That's, in a lot of cases, that's almost the reason why to watch them.
That's why I watch them.
Yeah, thank you, Paul. So Paul brings up a good one. Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance. Fantastic hack and slash. I freaking love this game. I still need to go back because I played through it like once and a half, and I only have like 20% of the achievements. So I need to go back and play it some more. But excellent game, and a spin-off from the Metal Gear franchise, which I've never actually played any of the games. This is literally the only Metal Gear game I've played. I know it doesn't really count because it's not really a Metal Gear game, but fantastic game. That's a very good answer, because I was like, I don't know if I could think of anything, but that's my answer right there as well. Thank you, Paul.
Oh, and I heard Konami is actually thinking about making another Silent Hill game on their own, and I'm like, I think you kind of upset everybody by canceling Silent Hills with Hideo Kojima and
PT and Silent Hills.
Yeah, it's like with Norman Reedus and Guillermo del Toro, that would have been amazing.
Well, I mean, you got Death Stranding.
Yes, but that is not amazing. That is something that they put together just to get a game out for a new studio. That is not an amazing game. Yeah, honestly, though, I've played Death Stranding. It's got amazing visuals and it's got a great concept, but it's not a great game to play.
Okay, yeah.
Just...
PlayStation, no, it's on Windows now, so I could play it, but I have no interest in playing it. But yeah, you want Norman Reedus? Yes, we want Norman Reedus. You want Guillermo del Toro? Yeah, we want Guillermo del Toro. Here's Death Stranding. What? That's not what we want. Don't you guys have phones?
Yeah. Oh God. Don't you guys have fun? I love that reference. Like, that was Diablo, wasn't it?
Diablo Immortal. It's like,
yeah.
Talk about being out of touch with your customer base.
I love when they announced that, like, everybody in the whole audience just booed. Like the game director's up there going like, what did I spend my life doing here? Do you guys not have phones? It's like, dude, now you just made it worse.
Yeah, we have phones, but we don't want to play games on them. We want to play games on our computers. So, and Vanquish, you never even played Metal Gear? Why do I even sub? Metal Gear was primarily a PlayStation franchise for years. I've never owned a PlayStation, so.
Well, they got the remasters coming out.
Well, I know at least on Switch it came out because I have a friend on Twitter. Literally for the last 6 months, every day he posted a post. This many days till the Switch Metal Gear collection. So I know I could now. My backlog is too big. I don't think I'll ever get around to it. I think it's kind of missed a chance with me. Not that there's any knock against it. I'm sure I would have loved it, but I've got Splinter Cell and I freaking love it. And I'll take Sam Fisher over Solid Snake any day of the week.
There was a guy I used to work with at Best Buy, or not at Best Buy, when I worked at Borders Books, so even further back than Best Buy. And it was so funny. We would get super excited for a video game, and he would actually do this. He'd be like, yay, that game came out, and I'm super excited to play it in 3.2 years when I'm done with my backlog.
Exactly. Yeah. I have a huge backlog, and there are a lot of games I'm very much looking forward to playing, and sometimes I'm really tempted. I'm like, I really want to play that right now, but no, stick to, because I'm working on recovering my bean dive. So on Xbox, what's called a bean dive is you start a dive and you get one achievement in all the games that you want to play, and then you close your dive, and then drops your completion percentage however much. And then you work your way back up to your original completion percentage. Then you've completed your dive. So I started like 4 years ago. So I've been like, I've got to complete my dive. So the only thing I'm starting right now is any games that I want to play that are leaving Game Pass. Other than that, I'm not starting any new games. But once I complete my dive, I'm starting tons of new games. I'm very much looking forward to that point.
Yeah, there's a game about ready to come on to Game Pass, or at least hopefully in the next year or so, that I was looking forward to, called My Friendly Neighborhood. I know it's kind of more of a horror game, so that you.
Oh, is that a spinoff or a sequel to Hello Neighbor?
No, no. There was Hello Neighbor, and then there was a sequel to that one. This is My Friendly Neighborhood, which is kind of a horror. Yeah, this is kind of a take on like children's programming. Almost like Sesame Street kind of thing. It's basically like those puppets come to life and start trying to kill you.
Okay, so it's like Sesame Street meets Five Nights with Freddy's.
Pretty much.
Five Nights at Freddy's.
Yes.
Interesting. I've not even heard of this concept, but it sounds interesting.
Yeah, it's out on Steam right now. It's I want to say it's out for Windows, but they have said that it will come out for PlayStation and Xbox at some point. So I don't know what at some point means.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. So, have
you seen the Five Nights at Freddy's movie? Or you got even excited about that at all?
I may watch it eventually, but I don't really have much interest. I've heard that I'd probably be more interested in Willy's Wonderland.
I saw that was so insane.
I like Nick Cage, so I probably like that movie better. I have no connection really with the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise, so I'm not terribly interested in seeing it.
But that's the funny thing is actually when they did Willy's Wonderland, everyone compared it to Five Nights at Freddy's. Now that Five Nights at Freddy's, the movie, is out, everyone's comparing it to Willy's Wonderland. It's like, no, don't do that, but you can, because it's pretty much the same concept. the whole way through.
Yeah. Well, I don't really watch a whole lot anyways, so I probably won't see either of them. But if I was going to pick between the two, I'd probably go with Willy's Wonderland because I think I would like it better.
Yeah, and I think Kay was sitting there saying Five Nights at Freddy's was worth it. You guys should watch it if you haven't.
Yeah, it's that's right. It went to theaters and streaming at the same time, which we don't see that a lot lately. Because they know that that's typically going to dig into their
into
the
their
box
profits.
office
Yeah.
profits. Yeah. But apparently
depending on
it
what kind of
did
contract
really
they
well.
have. Yeah.
So,
my wife and I were talking about going to the movie this weekend. We just can't figure out if we want to go see Five Nights at Freddy's or if we want to go see the Marvels. It's we all kind of have superhero fatigue because of how many superhero movies are out at any given time. But the Marvels is one that really looks fun.
Yeah, I definitely don't have any interest in seeing that. What was the last time I went to the theater? Oh, you know what? Let's see here. Last movie I saw really? No, I've seen something since then. Oh, there it is. Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning. That was the last time I went to the theater. I'm missing some of my. Where'd my Fast X ticket go? I'm missing some of my recent tickets.
Yeah, my wife and I didn't get to go see as many movies as we wanted this year, but it was like at the same time they were just cranking out movie after movie after movie after movie after movie, and it was just like I cannot afford to see all these.
For me, there just wasn't that many I was really interested in. It was I think Fast X and Mission Impossible really the only ones I even wanted to go to the theater to see.
She really wanted to go see the Barbie movie, and I was not really that interested in it and then I saw that it had a PG-13 rating, and I was like, how is a Barbie movie getting a PG-13 rating? Then I
know. I was shocked when I heard that too. It's like, this is supposed to be for kids, right? No, I guess not. I wouldn't let my kids see it.
Yeah, but that was the thing. When I was reading more about it, because I was like, okay, what am I really getting into if I take her to see this? I was like, what am I getting into? And they were like, this is really aimed at both men and women who are teenagers and older, and even more into the adults. And I saw it, and I ended up actually really enjoying it. Like, I was pleasantly surprised. Okay. Then I saw Oppenheimer. Yeah. I did not do the whole Barbenheimer double feature thing, but I did end up seeing Oppenheimer, which was really good. I saw the new Indiana Jones, which if you had stopped at 3 movies, that would have been fine. Yeah. Can't think of what else we saw. We saw a few others. We ended up seeing that Sound of Freedom that came out.
I've been meaning to watch that because I've heard it's very good. Tough to watch, but good.
It's very tough to watch. It's got a PG-13 rating. Very much hinders on the R. And almost I think they should have maybe even given it an R, but that's my own thing. But I got to go see that for free because there was a website that was giving out tickets for it.
Okay.
So cool. We saw that.
I need to watch that.
Guardians of the Galaxy 3. There was no way I was missing that one because I
love I did watch that, but not in theaters.
I just do you see the handle? Do you see the button? Push the button. Now what? Open the door. I was laughing so hard at that part.
Shoot, what was I just gonna say?
Kay is saying I did Barbenheimer and it was a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, I know James and Kay went and saw it because James couldn't shut up about Ryan Gosling for a while.
He's a good actor, and man, he did a great job as Ken.
I still had that up there. Yeah, I've heard that he did a good job. He's a good actor.
They're actually championing him for Best Supporting Actor nomination for that movie.
Yeah, I don't know how well he did in it, but I know that he does a good job. So he very well could deserve that.
Yep.
And Vanquish loves the Willy's Wonderland. And I remember no one told me about it. I remember seeing the trailer for it before it came out. And I watched Jeremy Jan's review of it after it came out. So is Dabzilla a fan of Willy's Wonderland?
I don't know anybody that isn't. That movie's so ridiculously
I love Nick Cage. He's great. Vanquish is saying that he's not seen Five Nights at Freddy's, but his wife loved it. Okay. Okay, is Five Nights at Freddy's nice because they really valued their fans and making it? That's what I've heard. I'm not a big fan of it, but could tell they put put in a lot of care. Awesome.
So
That's what they really need to do if you want to make money, and not.
It was a movie made for the fans, not for the critics.
Yeah, and that's what movies should be. Because what's more important, accolades from critics or making money? So, you would think that the easy answer would be making money, but for a lot of these studios, for some reason, getting critic awards is more important to them.
I think a lot of times when you get a lot of these awards, that tends to, like, a lot of people will see that the awards came in and then they'll watch it depending on the awards. But at the same time, I'm like, you know what? Who cares about the awards? You should make these because you're passionate about them. You should make them for the fans. You shouldn't make them to win prizes.
Exactly.
I mean, Martin Scorsese said the same thing when he's only won one Oscar, but how many movies has he had that could have won Oscars? And he's like, well, I don't do this to win prizes. It's cool that I get nominated, and I'm thankful, but it's not. I don't do it for them.
That's a good question. I'd be interested to find out how many Oscar-nominated movies he has, and only one Oscar win.
And it wasn't even his best movie.
What was his win?
The Departed.
Okay, that was going to be my guess. That was a good movie. Sad, but good.
It was very good, but I think Goodfellas was better. I think Gangs of New York was better. Taxi Driver was better. It was just, compared to his other work, it was probably one of his weaker ones. But at the same time, I'm like, at least he got it,
Yeah, it's kind of like DiCaprio finally getting his award for
Revenant.
Revenant. And that was, I think people were saying that that's not even his best role, but he's finally got his Oscar or whatever award it was.
Who was it? I think it was George Lucas went up on stage with Steven Spielberg and Clint Eastwood one year. And they were like, boy, isn't it great that we've all won these awards? He's like, this is so amazing. And Spielberg's like, I've been nominated many times. And I think George Lucas goes like, I've never won one. Like, looked like right at the audience. And then he's like, I don't know what it feels like. And everyone's like, oh, it's pretty good.
It's like, gee, thanks, guys. You guys suck. And Kay is saying that Oppenheimer and Mario are tied for movie of the year. Okay. Yeah, I haven't seen Oppenheimer. Obviously, between Oppenheimer and Barbie, I would definitely choose Oppenheimer. But I don't know when even though I love Christopher Nolan, he's my favorite director, I don't know when I'm going to get around to watching Oppenheimer, just because I know it's a slower movie. And like I said, I don't watch a whole lot. So when I do watch it, it'll probably take me like a week to watch it. Because I usually watch movies in like 30-minute increments. So... and Classy Vigilante's here. What's up, Classy Vigilante? Good to see you. Guardians 3. I think he's saying that's the last time he went to the theater is for Guardians 3. So, okay. Oh my goodness, I am way behind. I thought I was at the bottom. And then I was like, oh my goodness, I have to keep scrolling. And Vanquish, the last movie we went and saw was Top Gun Maverick, which I just watched again this week because I was scrolling through movies. I'm like, none of this sounds good. I'm like, oh, Top Gun Maverick. I know that movie's good, so I watched that again. Mm-hmm. I was like, I think I've seen it 4 times now, and I think I loved it more this time than the first 3 times I saw it. Such a good movie.
It's one of those you can just put it on in the background and just do whatever, and it's so good.
Yeah, I think
you can just sit there and jump in at any time.
I rewound and watched the scene where Maverick pulls off basically the trench run when he basically steals the F-18 to show him that it is possible. I think I rewatched and watched that scene like 3 times. I was like, God, that's a good scene.
Mm-hmm.
He saw it in IMAX, and for $100, dear God.
Yeah, I'm not paying that much.
You can't imagine $100. That's got to be for like 2 people plus concessions. Like, there's no way $100 for a ticket. But Kay and James did the Barbenheimer. They did both, and it was fun. So, let's see. Oh, so Paul is saying that Dad is a Nick Cage fan. I mean, who isn't? He's great.
Wasn't Kay there saying that The Sound of Freedom wasn't super graphic, but was definitely emotional?
Yeah.
Yeah,
definitely emotional, not graphic, but covers very graphic content. So
right.
Shaka Zulu saying the Ken movie is movie of the year.
The Ken movie.
Not Barbie, the Ken movie. So, okay. So there was, Kay did ask a question, which I'll be answering here in just a moment on our outros. I did not forget. So, well, yeah, wow, all right, 2:15, and man, time flies by when you're having fun.
We're doing the Midwestern goodbye thing where we say we're going to stop
Midwestern
and then we keep
goodbye. I've heard that. I've also heard it be called an Italian goodbye. And I've used that term a few times lately too, because I would have the same thing when I was a kid. Like when I'd be over at a friend's house and like my dad would come to pick me up, and then it's like, all right, we're going, and I'd be like, all right, we still got about an hour left till we need to go, because they just talk.
Yep.
And then like 15 minutes later, all right, come on, we're going. I'm like, nope, it's not time. And then you keep talking. And then you finally go out to the car. I'm like, all right, time to go now. So kind of the same concept. So
we don't say goodbye. We just slap our knees and say, well, I suppose, and then start talking for another hour.
Shaka Zulu's like, that's right. It is the Ken movie. So, well, I guess kind of our outros may be slightly similar. But what do you guys got going on in your channel coming up here?
Actually, this week, so actually I should say the day after tomorrow, 10:30 a.m. our time, we're going to have Twitch streamer Skinny Savior is going to be on. And we're actually going to be talking about how video games can be literal lifesavers. This might get to be a kind of a heavier episode. Usually we try to keep it light and fun, but this one might get a little heavy considering the subject matter. And I
saw the tweet and I replied to that because I was like, I won't be able to watch it live, but I will definitely be watching the replay, because my tweet was saying that I can't say video games ever saved my life, but they have prevented me from getting in car accidents before.
Oh, wow. Grand Theft Auto teach you how to.
Well, so I did in the 360 days, I had the steering wheel, and I played a lot of Forza 2 and 3, which is a very, it's simulation racing. It's very realistic, and it made me a better driver. And because of that, there have been a number of times where I avoided getting in accidents because I got really good at playing Forza. And if you got kids that are getting to driving age, I would definitely recommend a steering wheel and Forza or Gran Turismo, a simulation racer. It will make you a better driver because you'll know how to handle your car better when you're, in the situations that you're not typically trained for.
Oh yeah, a buddy of mine does iRacing, if you've ever heard of that, and he's on Twitch too. Matt Malone is what he goes by, and he's actually says that that driving that has made him a better driver. Because he does the whole thing. He's got like the pedals down there. He's got it hooked up. He's got like this really realistic like steering wheel.
Yeah. So there were a number of instances. One was it had just rained and I came around a corner too fast and I fishtailed and I almost went into oncoming traffic, but I knew exactly how to respond and counter steer, and I didn't get in a car accident. There was another time where I almost slid off the road due to ice, and I knew exactly how to handle the car and didn't go into a ditch. So it definitely made me a better driver and saved me from getting in accidents.
Turn into the slide. Don't turn away from it.
Yeah. So they wouldn't have been, there wouldn't have been accidents where my car would have been totaled. But so it wouldn't have been like a life-saving thing. But I've definitely avoided getting in accidents because of being good at Forza and playing with the steering wheel, not just with your controller. Definitely with steering wheel.
Oh yeah.
It simulates it perfectly.
Oh yeah.
So I'm definitely looking forward to watching the replay on that.
Oh, yeah. It's one that I'm simultaneously looking forward to, and not because I just know how heavy it can get, but at the same time, it's like it's a subject that's very close to me. And I know it's very close to Skinny as well. So we'll be talking about that. We got a lot of cool things coming up. We are going to be taking a 2-week hiatus right after that due to Thanksgiving, and Charlie and I will be doing things with our families. And then after that, we are. I'm actually in talks with Keisha Howard and Jennifer Tong of Sugar Gamers, if you've heard of them. Yep, they're big advocates for diversity in not just gaming in itself, but gaming industries, and then also they're advocates for using gaming as real life learning tools.
Okay, cool.
Yep, they've talked a lot about how doctors now are more accurate, more precision focused, and it's the generation that's becoming doctors now grew up with video games, and the reason that they're so focused is because they spent so much time with games. And that's why actually, if, when you're learning for surgeries, a lot of times they'll actually have you do it with a controller, and all these procedures that are coming on that require robot stuff to go into your head. They want the person that's played the most games, that knows how to maneuver these things.
That's awesome. Who said video games wouldn't pay off someday?
I've actually made money on Twitch, and I kind of joked with my mom saying, "You said video games would never pay me money, but what was this check? What was this check? What was
Yeah.
it?"
Suck it, Mom.
Yeah, got a lot of cool things going on. That we got a lot of other guests that we're working to get on. Like I said, we got some psychologists that are coming on. Not sure exactly when they're going to be able to, but got them coming on. Got a whole lot of things coming up on this show.
Cool. And that's on the Goes Nowhere Does Nothing channel, correct?
Goes Nowhere Does Nothing. You can also find it on our Twitch pages, which mine is Cyclops Muller. And then a lot of times we also have it on Facebook as well, which you'll find on my personal Facebook page.
Okay. I did preload the link to your channel and your Twitter on the description for the video. So it is there already if you guys want to go check them out and subscribe to them if you haven't already. Or follow them on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it. I still call it Twitter because it is still twitter.com, and I will continue calling it Twitter until it is no longer twitter.com.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and I usually say Twitter X.
Twitter X. I know some people say Twitter, some people say X, some people say Twitter X, some people say Twitter or X, formerly known as Twitter. Some people say Twix. It's still all over the board. But I will continue calling it Twitter until it is no longer twitter.com. And Shaka Zulu says that games also taught him how to not spin out. So cool. And Classic Vigilante is saying that Witcher saved me in 2020. Glad I found those games books when I did. Awesome. Good to hear. That's definitely, I haven't played it or read anything, but I know that a lot of people love it. I know when I had Vanquish on not too long ago, that I think he was saying Witcher 3 is his favorite game of all time. Definitely a good franchise to get lost in. Yeah. So in addition to that, coming up here on the Nerdy Neo channel, I'll have my next episode of Party Chat on Saturday, 11:30 a.m. Pacific, where hopefully both halves of the Goes Nowhere Does Nothing crew, Adam here and Charlie, hoping they'll both be able to make it for that as the guest hosts. And Ryan has said that he'll be able to make it. So that's going to give us a full house of 5 people. So I've never had more than 4 on at a time. So we'll see how that goes. It'll be a fun time. And then let's see, probably won't have a open mic next week because next Thursday is Thanksgiving. I was talking to Charlie about next Friday, but I didn't realize that's Black Friday when we were tentatively planning on it. So I don't know if that's going to happen or not. We'll have to figure that out. And then
I'll actually be out of state with my family at that time.
So, yeah, because I wanted to get Charlie on for open mic at some point too. So we're tentatively planning on next Friday, but I don't know if either of us realize that that's Black Friday. So we shall see. But to answer Kay's question from probably about 30 minutes ago, I'm trying to see if I can find it. There it is. She was wondering, when is your next Achievement Chasers? So that's what we're calling it, Achievement Chasers, not Achievement Hunters, even though we are Achievement Hunters. So Dude12869 just started doing a monthly show called Achievement Chasers, where we talk about our adventures in achievement hunting. So our next one, we just scheduled it this afternoon. So it's perfect timing that you asked. We're going to be doing that on December 1st. So that's 2 weeks from tomorrow, on Friday at 5:00 Pacific. So that is when the next episode of Achievement Chasers is. So it looks like we've got a new sub from Vanquish. So, well, I had a blast talking to you. I look forward to having you and Charlie on for Party Chat, where it'll be more structured. But we're going to be talking about some fun topics. I will be sending the topics to you here in just a little bit, so you can prep if you need to. So you'll have answers for the questions. So I had a great time as always. Looking forward to talking to you again later. Thank you everyone in the chat for joining us tonight. And I will hopefully see you all for Party Chat on Saturday. All right, good night, everyone. And in the meantime, game on.
Have a good one.